Since he was a kid, this guy has always been labeled a total loser because he couldn't awaken any magic. To make matters worse, his little sister is a prodigy, a holy mage, which only makes him look even more pathetic. Or so people think. They have no idea that the true genius hidden within the family is actually him. You see, after a tragic accident, Lucas died and unknowingly reincarnated. He ended up in this world of magic. But for some god-forsaken reason, he awakened the strength of a martial god, the kind of brute force that makes no sense. So, while other mages are busy chanting, casting spells, and doing all that fancy stuff, our man here plays by the laws of physics, one punch, game over. He's basically the one-punch man of this wizarding world, and he doesn't give a damn about anyone. Inside the ER, a high schooler named Suichi is lying on his deathbed, fading away. He recalls the final words from his loved ones. That very morning, his kind mother had handed him a lunchbox with his favorite egg rolls, telling him not to worry about money and just focus on his studies. His little sister also cheerfully offered him some candy. He had gently patted her head and told her to listen to their mom. But back at school, reality was a total nightmare. A bunch of thugs stomped on Suichi's lunchbox, mocking him. "Can't believe you actually showed your face at school today?" He was brutally beaten just for standing up to protect a girl. The ringleader sneered. "A weakling like you wants to be a hero? You're still way too green." Just then, even the girl he saved could only stand in the rain and tell him not to provoke them, saying he should worry about himself instead. The real tragedy struck when a truck came hurtling toward them, with its headlights blinding through the pouring rain. Suichi, his face still bruised from the beating, couldn't dodge in time and was sent flying. After the violent collision, he lay motionless on the pavement. His consciousness faded along with a desperate question, "Am I dying?" In a weak, pained whisper, Suichi called out for his mother. He felt an overwhelming sense of regret and torment for not being able to protect the ones he loved. Amidst the whispering of passers-by, a fierce desire flared up in his heart. "In my next life, I must possess power so no one can bully me ever again." On the continent of Akanaz, the annual sacred blessing ceremony was taking place with great solemnity. The priest loudly declared to the crowd, "Children under 6 years old, offer your most precious item to the gods. If accepted, you will be granted a soul messenger. This is the only chance for the citizens to awaken their latent magical elements and become true mages." Among the crowd, a poor little boy naively asked his mother if his candy would be enough to trade for magic. But his mother could only reply sadly, "No, honey, it has to be expensive jewelry, like what the nobles have." Indeed, noble families like Lady Blang had prepared gorgeous jewelry boxes because the more valuable the item, the higher the chance of receiving a blessing. A buzz of excitement rippled through the crowd when the Ryan family appeared. Some even claimed they had bet their entire fortune just for this chance to change their lives. Ho-Chi-An, head of the Ryan family, looked at his children with a determined gaze. He told himself he had made a huge gamble for the future of the entire lineage. And Lucas and Julia, the two smartest kids in the family, would surely receive high-level blessings. Right after that, the priest called out, "Next, Julia Rian." The petite girl walked toward the altar and placed her golden crown on the stone pedestal, causing the magic circle at her feet to instantly activate, blazing with lightning. A fierce surge of electricity erupted from the magic circle. No one could believe their eyes when they saw the level of the blessing reach level 7, a miracle that hadn't happened in the last 12 years. Julia stood amidst the searing bolts of electricity, her eyes glowing with a divine power that left the entire plaza stunned by her innate talent. Truly incredible. Witnessing Julia's success, the crowd began to whisper. They realized the item she had offered was the Crown of Thunder, yet some remained skeptical that it wasn't worth the Ryan family sacrificing their entire fortune. Meanwhile, Lucas was excitedly clapping for his sister. His father, Ho-Chi-An, approached, gently adjusting his son's clothes and said, "Lucas, it's your turn." The boy confidently replied, "Yes, father." The butler slowly opened a wooden box, revealing a sword that radiated an incredibly powerful aura. The appearance of the sword left everyone present shocked by the massive magical energy it emitted. The silhouette of Vunerus, the primordial fire god of magic, appeared blazing behind Lucas, causing everyone to gasp in amazement. While Julia happily cheered, wishing her brother luck, Lucas calmly picked up the sword and walked toward the altar. The priest standing there couldn't help but admire the priceless item. He understood that the head of the Ryan family was betting everything on this child. The moment Lucas placed the sword on the pedestal, the magic circle exploded in a blinding light. At that same moment, the sky above the academy suddenly turned blood red. Witnessing such a phenomenon never before seen in history, Ho Chian stood stunned, wondering, is that level 9? Or did I spend way too much money? Inside the altar, a giant pillar of fire erupted from the pedestal. But the situation suddenly turned for the worse when Lucas looked down at his hands and realized flames were beginning to burst from inside his own body. The pain hit him so suddenly he couldn't react. His eyes burned with fierce, fiery light. In excruciating pain, Lucas let out a harrowing scream as the magical fire consumed him, while the sword still hovered above as if performing a brutal sacrificial ritual. The sky gradually returned to normal, but the air at the ceremony became heavy with anxiety. Lucas's father panicked and shouted, "Is the ceremony over? Where is the soul messenger?" Amidst the murmurs, someone pointed toward the altar. "Hey, look at the altar." Julia watched in horror. The candy in her hand fell and shattered when she saw her brother thrown off the altar, falling freely to the ground amidst a cloud of gray smoke. Lucas lay motionless on the ground, his eyes staring blankly into the void. "Brother!" Julia screamed through tears. Ho Chian frantically rushed over, calling his son's name. The whole family gathered around Lucas's cold body. His mother sobbed, not understanding what was happening. And his father pleaded desperately, "Lucas, please, wake up." The priest, standing there, drenched in sweat, trembling, delivered the cruel verdict. The god has rejected this boy. Lucas Rian has been turned away by the primordial god of magic. While everyone was still in shock, a strange blue light quietly left the scene. Within, another space, known as the domain of the fire god, rivers of lava churned with the fury of a powerful dark entity. He roared, full of resentment, damn it. How dare the Ryan family offer the very sword that nearly took my life? Is the fire god that cowardly? Afraid of just one sword? He grabbed the sword, clearly sensing the unforgivable, traces of the past, having been wounded by this very weapon. The cold-hearted fire god declared that the Ryan family should be grateful he only burned the soul of that child. The surrounding minor demons never ceased their flattery of his benevolence and generosity. Suddenly, one minor demon notices something unusual. There is a guest from another planet. "He just checked into this body," they mutter. "Should I burn it to a crisp again?" But the fire god merely scoffs with contempt. No need. A bug from the outside world isn't worth the effort. He turns to look at the offering and admits it's quite a good item. Meanwhile, in the real world, a butterfly-shaped blue light begins to land on Lucas's forehead. His eyes snap open, emitting a blinding radiance. The scene shifts to the realm of the heavenly origin martial god, where a man with fiery red hair and bulging muscles stands, floating in the void. He is surrounded by swirling ribbons of golden energy, creating a suffocating divine pressure. As he opens his eyes, his pupils blaze with an orange glow, radiating the aura of a supreme ruler. With every step he takes through the void, reality shatters like glass. The martial god continues walking majestically. Each movement causes the surrounding space to crack violently. Directly ahead, a colossal entity with green skin and countless glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows of the cosmos, blocking his path. Looking at it, he realizes this is the source of power ruling this world. Without a hint of fear, the martial god folds his arms arrogantly and questions it. "Trying to block my ascent? You're not worthy." In response to the challenge, the cosmic monster opens its mouth full of sharp teeth and spits out a powerful beam of pitch-black energy, aiming to devour the one who dares to commit blasphemy. The terrifying pressure surges straight toward the martial god, but he stands firm in the epicenter, his eyes blazing as he channels all his power into his fist. The martial god unleashes a devastating punch, creating a massive explosion of light that wipes out the opponent's attack. Amidst the dissipating energy fragments, the martial god stands tall, advancing toward the brilliant light. After defeating the cosmic entity, the martial god flashes a cocky grin. "Cosmic power? It's like a mosquito bite. Keep waiting for me." Just at that moment, his guardian spirit rushes over with a shrill cry. "Lord Marshal! God! Cut off!" The martial god coldly pushes the little spirit away and demands to know the reason. However, his expression suddenly changes as he senses a terrifying truth. This Aura Rasuku, my former partner, has he been destroyed? He begins to doubt what is happening on the continent of Akanis. In the martial god's memory 1,000 years ago, martial arts were the supreme power that surpassed magic by far. He cannot accept that Vunkainos, a weakling who nearly died under a single strike of his, is now worshipped as the supreme fire god. The spirit cries and nags that if he hadn't been so obsessed with martial arts, he wouldn't have let that minor god run wild for so long. Standing before the shifting eras, the martial god crosses his arms in contemplation. Having to personally go and spread martial arts is quite a burden. Yet looking at the soul flame burning dimly, he understands that it is his responsibility to pass on the essence to future generations. With an unyielding will, the martial god decides to step into the stream of light, to seek new transcendence. At the same time, in the real world, Lucas slowly regains consciousness upon hearing echoes in his head. Shocked, he wonders, dead? And I'm still being bothered like this? Talk about bad luck. The moment he opens his eyes, he freezes, seeing the many faces of the spirit staring intently at him with great seriousness. The little soul proclaims, I am the martial god. Ma! Under my protection, your life is about to take a turn for the better. Lucas lies motionless on the hospital bed, surrounded by magical light motes dancing endlessly. The spirit declares, I shall grant you the protection of the martial god. Before Lucas can even process this, a blinding light from the void shoots straight into him. Instantly, a mystical notification appears. Blessing of the call. 9th rank martial, God granted. Martial arts training level cap has been removed. Waking up in the hospital bed with golden aura circling his body, Lucas is stunned and wonders about this strange 9th rank power and the presence of the spirits he just heard. He stares at his trembling hands, his mind reeling at this irrational reality. Lucas recalls the terrifying moment he was hit by a truck in his previous life. I should have died that day. Why am I still alive? The memories of the original Lucas. Ryan, the child who was rejected by the gods at the ceremony, begin to flood in, intertwining with his old memories, making him clutch his head in pain. He wears a bitter smile, wondering if heaven is playing a trick on his fate. Reincarnating as a child abandoned by gods in a magical world makes Lucas deeply anxious. He fears that he will soon be abandoned by his family, creating a life even more miserable than his previous one. Deep down, he silently hopes his mother and little sister, Azusa, in his old world, can live well thanks to his life insurance money. Looking at the strange light on his hands, he still can't understand what the martial god's blessing means when he knows absolutely nothing about martial arts. Suddenly, the sound of a candy hitting the floor makes him jump and turn around. Julia is standing at the door with teary eyes, sobbing and calling out to her brother. She lunges forward to hug Lucas tightly, crying tears of joy. You're not dead? I thought you were gone forever. Lucas gently pats her head to comfort his sister. Don't cry anymore, I'm fine. Then looking at Julia, he feels a pang of longing for Azusa, thinking that his sister in his previous life must be devastated by his death. Lucas's gaze becomes firm. He tells himself, in this new life he will use everything he has to protect what is most precious. Looking out the window, Lucas silently resolves, I'm counting on you, martial god. At a dark, gloomy temple, the angel statue suddenly sheds terrifying tears of blood. A ghostly woman with long blue hair slowly materializes. She senses the disappearance of the cursed entity and wonders if he has died or left this world. She wears a sinister smile, asserting that even with only a shred of power left, this world will eventually belong to them. 9 years later at the Rian family estate, Lucas has now become a tall, handsome young man. Wiping his sweat after a workout, he thinks to himself that since the sky has cleared, perhaps Julia's magic training has ended. Lucas intends to go pick up his sister. But suddenly, a murderous aura strikes from behind, making him snap into a defensive stance. Thorny vines suddenly wrap tightly around his body, lifting Lucas into the air. Instead of fear, he only sighs in annoyance, having grown accustomed to these pranks. The person who just appeared is Jeremy Ryan, the 4th son of the Ryan family and Lucas's half-brother. He leans on his staff with a triumphant smirk, never ceasing his sarcastic remarks. Why is a god-hated trash like you still loitering around this house? Jeremy continues arrogantly, asserting that this backyard is only for family members who know how to use magic. He tightens the vines, threatening to break a few of Lucas's ribs to teach him some manners. Yet, Lucas replies with a long, bored yawn, completely unafraid. He calmly reminds him that his sister's training session, the girl finished her warning, telling them she wouldn't hesitate to roast anyone who didn't back off. Before I could change my mind, Jeremy, though shaking, tried to act tough, claiming a weakling like me needed her protection. The girl retorted that he had no right to order her around, but before she could finish, a massive bolt of purple lightning struck down from the sky straight onto Jeremy, and he let out a blood-curdling scream as he was engulfed and scorched by the electric blast, collapsing to the ground in a cloud of black smoke. Lucas looked toward the gate where Julia was approaching, her staff glowing with intense magical energy. Julia declared firmly, "If you ever dare to bully my brother again, I won't hold back." She puffed out her cheeks in a pout, then quickly used her magic to dissolve the thorny vines wrapped around Lucas. As the thorns fell to the ground, Lucas gently patted his sister's head to thank and reassure her. Then he looked at Jeremy. The guy was scrambling to get up with a sinister smirk. "Have you learned your lesson, or do you want to end up the same way next time?" Jeremy gritted his teeth in humiliation, only able to scream a threat, "Just you remember this," before fleeing for his life with his maid. Watching them retreat, Lucas secretly realized that Julia had intentionally held back her power to avoid causing serious injury. Julia turned to him, puzzled. She knew well that her brother could have easily defeated Jeremy if he wanted to. "Why didn't you fight back?" Lucas just smiled, reminding her that his true strength was a secret known only to the two of them. Lucas smiled and rubbed her head, asking, "Make sure you keep protecting me from now on, all right?" She replied excitedly, "Of course!" 9 years had passed since his soul was reincarnated into the body of Lucas Ryan. He remembered the day he first woke up 9 years ago, when Lucas's father had come to visit. He had once thought he would be kicked out of the house for being a disappointment, but that wasn't the case. Mr. Holt. Ryan hugged his son tightly and sobbed, "My God, thank goodness you're alive. That's a blessing for our whole family, even as the leader of a night order who often had to go on long campaigns away from home. He was still an exemplary father, always loving and deeply concerned for his children. When he found out Lucas started practicing martial arts, he immediately sent a letter full of useful information, revealing the locations of ancient martial arts books in the family library. Thanks to that letter, Lucas decided to carry out an incredibly daring plan at the mansion. The maids never stopped whispering about how young Master Lucas would constantly disappear on his own, even though he was still so young. Some sharp-tongued ones even said that, because he had no magic, he would eventually be kicked out of the house. Suddenly, intense tremors shook the entire mansion. The maids looked around, bewildered, guessing that someone was practicing earth magic, never knowing that a pair of steel fists were frantically breaking through the hard rock layers right beneath their feet. Lucas wiped the sweat from his brow after finishing the job. He had been digging a tunnel. Content, he told himself. Everything is set. For 6 long months, he had silently dug a secret basement right under his room and divided it into 4 separate zones: a study area, a training area, a storage area, and a makeshift bathroom. Since he had poured all his money into specialized equipment, he had to settle for a simple tub to soak in medicinal herbs. Since then, every day, Lucas had secretly committed himself to rigorous training sessions inside his hidden base. The secret basement had now become a true dojo, fully stocked with weapons and ancient books. Lucas was soaking in the medicinal tub, which gave off a mystical purple vapor. He told himself that soaking in this royal purple potion was absolutely top tier. For the past 3 years, he had been training non-stop, based on the secret manual known as the Chaos Body Refining Technique. The results were astonishing. Now, even level 5 magic attacks couldn't leave so much as a scratch on his body. With his defense perfected, Lucas started focusing on training his offensive skills. Standing before a training dummy, he drew his sword from its scabbard with lightning speed. His eyes glowed with intense focus, every movement radiating the power of a true master. Not stopping there, Lucas switched to spear training. A powerful swing of the spear unleashed a wave of golden force, instantly crushing the training dummy into smithereens in a heartbeat. He stood tall in the middle of the basement, his breathing perfectly steady after such powerful strikes. A notification confirmed that Lucas had reached level 4 of his cloud-piercing thunder spear skill. He told himself he would practice a bit more hand-to-hand combat before finishing his session. Over the past 9 years, his abilities had skyrocketed, but deep down, a concern remained about the limits of martial artists. According to ancient texts, when reaching a certain realm, a martial artist would encounter a ceiling that prevented further evolution. The only way to break through was to achieve enlightenment, a challenge so incredibly difficult that countless people gave up halfway. This was exactly why the martial way was gradually declining and being overshadowed by magic, even though in reality they were by no means inferior. But Lucas confidently asserted, "It might be hard for others, but I'm an exception." He focused all his energy into his fist, his eyes glowing with an intense, pressured blue light, and with a thunderous roar, Lucas unleashed a direct punch at the sandbag in front of him. A terrifying wave of force erupted, instantly crushing the target into dust in a cloud of debris. Standing amidst the ruins, Lucas calmly looked at his hands as a mystical notification appeared. "Violent Overlord. Fist has reached level 5. He realized his skill. Levels were still progressing very smoothly, seemingly without any limits at all. This was the result of the blessing from the level 9 martial god that he possessed. A series of skills, from his cloud-piercing thunder spear and drawn blade slash to his chaos body refining technique, had all reached astonishing levels. The ringing of the clock reminded Lucas that his training time was up. He quickly adjusted his attire, because tonight his father, Mr. Holt, would be returning home for the family dinner. Lucas strolled through the grand hallways of the mansion toward the main dining room. Pushing open the massive double doors, he saw that everyone was already gathered around the luxurious long dining table. Mr. Holt suddenly announced that this year, the Allen Magic Academy would be opening a martial arts department as a special measure, and he had submitted an application for Lucas. Hearing this, Jeremy could only click his tongue in disdain. His father continued to encourage him. "Martial arts are difficult, but I believe in you, Lucas. Prepare well for the entrance exam next week." Lucas calmly thanked his father while Julia happily enjoyed her meal beside him. He told himself, no matter what world, I'm in. Becoming strong is essential to protect what matters, but to avoid trouble, I absolutely must not let myself stand out too much. Julia excitedly interrupted the meal. "Father, I also want to join my brother at the Aladdin Magic Academy." Mr. Holt smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm, but reminded her that she was only 11 years old and not yet old enough for formal enrollment. Without flinching, Julia immediately countered by mentioning the existence of an elite course with no age limit, then confidently pulled out a bright red letter. "I've been directly invited to the school, so I don't need to wait for age requirements." Holding the letter, Mr. Holt was awestruck to realize that Julia's reputation as a genius had reached as far as the Allen Academy, and he believed that a great archmage is soon to be born into the Ryan family. Lucas silently admires his little sister's talent, while Lady Catherine gently prays for both of her children. "You will pass the exam safely." However, that warm atmosphere makes Jeremy incredibly annoyed. He gnashes his teeth in resentment, failing to understand why someone like Lucas is receiving such special treatment. And he fears his own reputation will suffer if his brother attends the academy too. Lost in his jealousy, Jeremy is suddenly pinched hard by a hand wearing a purple glove on his thigh, causing him to cry out in pain. It is none other than Jessica Ryan, Jeremy's mother and the second wife of the Ryan house. She coldly demands that her son keep his composure. Jessica strokes Jeremy's face, reassuring him that he doesn't need to worry about this. "It would be a miracle if he passes. Just sit back and watch the show, my dear." With that, she wears a wicked smile. A week later, the day to depart for the Magic Academy arrives. Standing in front of the estate gates, their mother says goodbye with lingering affection. "Lucas, Julia, take care, you two. Once you have settled into your new home, I will come to visit and bring your favorite pudding." She hands Lucas an item and reminds him, "Don't forget the lucky coin your father gave you. It is a coin from the Wu Yun dynasty, the era that unified the world 10,000 years ago, which his father obtained after defeating a magical beast. The front of the coin is engraved with the image of the first emperor, while the back features the weapons he once used." Lucas is shocked to realize the face on the coin is the same muscular god that appeared before him. Recalling his father's words to always carry it as a lucky charm, Lucas feels deeply grateful that in this life, he was born into such a wonderful family. Dressed in their neat academy uniforms, the siblings wave goodbye. "We're leaving," a few hours later. As the sun begins to set, the carriage convoy stops at the edge of the forest to camp for the night. Sitting by the fire, Butler Foden says that if they depart early tomorrow morning, they will arrive at Dacktown, where the Allen Magic Academy is located, before nightfall. Julia excitedly asks about the interesting things there, and Foden enthusiastically describes the annual Magic Dodgeball tournament held every spring. Not only that, but Dak Town is also famous as a culinary paradise with countless delicacies. Seeing his sister drooling with hunger, Lucas can only smile bitterly and tease, "Wipe your mouth, little lady. It's about to become a waterfall." However, the cheerful atmosphere suddenly vanishes when Lucas's ears twitch slightly. A magic circle appears in his eyes, helping him sense every movement from afar. He coldly announces, "There are 12 horses and 13 people rushing toward us at high speed from 2 kilometers away." Facing the serious look from Lucas, Foden remains calm, replying that the probability of encountering bandits in this area is very low. Foden is overly optimistic. Life isn't a fairy tale. Thanks to his mixed internal energy techniques, Lucas possesses astonishingly sharp defensive, regenerative, and sensory abilities. He insists firmly that his senses are not mistaken. He also silently calculates, since there are only 5 people in the group and children are present, they need to handle this very carefully. While Julia is still innocently eating her cake, Lucas immediately stands up to warn them, "A mysterious group is heading toward us at an incredible speed. Take your positions." Butler Foden and the guards are still confused because they cannot hear any movement. But he quickly places his hand on the hilt of his sword. Foden immediately shouts, ordering his subordinates, "Are you all deaf? Guests are at our doorstep. Go greet them." Even though he doesn't know where Lucas got the information, he understands that being careful at this moment is never a waste. Immediately after that, a ferocious band of bandits on horseback charges out of the darkness at breakneck speed. It makes the guards gasp, "No way, they actually came." The bandit leader, with a long scar and an eye patch, laughs triumphantly. "Hey, we've got more fat prey." He is smug because, just as predicted, many nobles have appeared around here before the Allen Magic Academy entrance exam. Looking at the 2 siblings, he reveals his cruel nature, wanting to capture Julia alive to sell for a high price. And Lucas will also be a commodity that appeals to customers with twisted tastes. Foden draws his sword with dignity and threatens, "Do you know what happens when you touch a noble?" The leader is not afraid at all, but orders his men, "Kill them all, except for the 2 children." The battle breaks out immediately, and the guards shout with determination to support Foden in protecting their masters. The ferocious bandits swing their blades, rushing in with savage grins. The clashing sound of metal rings out in the middle of the night as the 2 sides clash. A brave soldier uses a spear to strike down a bandit, charging toward him with a sharp, determined gaze. He shouts, "Lady Julia, leave this to me!" Foden charges into the group of bandits like a tiger, each slash making his opponents pay a heavy price. In the moment of danger, he still does not forget to turn around and warn young Master Lucas, "Run away with Lady Julia. Go!" But a tragic scream suddenly rings out, making Lucas startle in shock. A guard protecting the convoy is engulfed in magical flames, screaming in excruciating pain. The bandit leader reveals himself with a brilliantly glowing staff in his hand and a sinister smile. Witnessing this scene, Foden is shocked to realize the cruel truth. What? There is a mage among the bandits? While he is distracted, he is approached by another bandit from behind. Foden only has time to shout his final plea, "Young master, run into the forest." A brutal slash grazes him, leaving Foden severely wounded. Lucas is extremely worried. Even though his body is exhausted and he is surrounded by mounted bandits, Foden tries to struggle to his feet while holding his sword. The lead mage approaches with a look full of murderous intent. He snarls, "You killed my men, so I will burn you alive." Facing the glowing magic muzzle, Foden is determined to protect his 2 young masters until his final breath. Standing in the shadows, Lucas calculates, a level 2 trying to fight a mage, that's like throwing an egg against a rock. He originally intended to hide his true strength, but seeing the man, who has always loved and cared for him like family in danger, Lucas cannot stand by and watch. Memories of Foden's kindness surface, making his heart ache. He cannot let his family be murdered right before his eyes. Lucas clenches his fist, turning to tell his sister Julia, "Hide here. I'm going to help Mr. Foden." He crouches, low, preparing to plunge into the fight with a completely different aura. Julia anxiously advises, "All right, please be careful." At that moment, the battlefield becomes incredibly fierce. Butler Foden lets out a roar and swings his sword, striking down another bandit. However, his strength is drained. Foden collapses, panting in the middle of the tragic scene, eating the opportunity. A bandit from above leaps down, swinging his blade. Damn old man, die! But the one being wounded is not him, it's the bandits around him, who are screaming in panic. What is this? Small stones covered in golden spiritual energy fly at wind-tearing speeds, piercing the enemy ranks and taking down the bandits in the blink of an eye, to the astonishment of all the survivors. Lucas stands in the shadows, his hand gripping a pebble that exudes a terrifying aura. He thinks to himself, thank goodness for the Gale strike technique. Level 4 reached. As I stared down the bandits with an icy glare, I scoffed at their delusion of being big shots. Watching their men get wiped out in the blink of an eye, the mage leader shrieked in a frenzy, "You bastards! Who did this?" Trembling, he activated a blazing magic circle on his staff, roaring as he tried to drag Foden down with him. "You old geezer, you're coming with me!" A massive fireball surged forward, pulsing with destructive power toward Foden. The old man shut his eyes, helpless, silently grateful that his two young masters would at least be safe thanks to the mysterious stranger. Just in the nick of time, Lucas lunged forward like a bolt of lightning, pouring all his strength into his fist to clash directly with the massive fireball, shielding his devoted butler. Stunned, Foden gazed at his young master's back and gasped, "Young master!" The fireball was completely neutralized, leaving the mage in sheer shock. He desperately tried to counterattack. I could have used fire snakes to finish him, but Lucas was faster. He closed the distance instantly and unleashed a brutal, crushing punch, leaving the leader to let out a final agonizing scream as the blow landed true. The force of the punch sent the mage flying, ending him right there. Foden stood frozen, staring at Lucas. He couldn't believe his eyes. How did he do that? A young boy taking down a high-level mage in an instant was unheard of. Lucas turned back with a confident grin. "Turns out, I might actually have a knack for martial arts." Foden could only call out to the young master with deep admiration, but their relief was short-lived as they both felt a suffocating, murderous aura. Sinister, pitch-black vines erupted from the ground, leaving Foden terrified. A massive, grotesque entity, a skeletal monstrosity with burning purple eyes and raw red flesh began to take shape. Faced with this terrifying monster, everyone couldn't help but blurt out, where the heck did this botched art project come from?" It opened a maw filled with razor-sharp fangs, the disgusting creature letting out hateful, bone-chilling cries of "Die!" The foul sound echoed, making the very air around them freeze. Watching the monster frantically swing its wicked claws, Lucas told himself he couldn't let Julia see such a horrific sight. He had to end this fast. Instantly, Lucas leaped into the air like a streak of light, channeling all his power into a strike infused with a golden aura, slamming it directly onto the target's head. Yet the monster didn't even flinch, instead radiating an evil, violet energy. Ghostly chains erupted from its body, dragging corpses up from the earth, leaving Lucas shocked. "What the hell is this?" the monster growled, its eyes glowing with a strange serpent symbol, its body mutating to grow larger and exuding a lethal pressure that engulfed him. Seeing the symbol in its eyes, Lucas realized this monster truly had the power to control the dead. Realizing standard physical attacks were useless, he decided to switch tactics. If physical hits don't work, let's try this. Lucas focused all his spiritual energy into his palm, unleashing a massive, explosive energy blast. The golden shockwave pierced through the evil entity, creating a blinding explosion of light that wiped away the darkness. The monster shrieked in vain as its body dissolved into ghostly fragments, the night slowly returning to silence. Lucas stood tall, ending the fight decisively. Once the enemy had completely vanished, he plopped down on the ground, breathing a sigh of relief. Hearing his brother being called, Lucas smiled at Julia as she came running over, throwing herself into his arms and gushing, "You took care of them all?" The butler was left dumbfounded, wondering when his young master had become this strong. Even a monster that big got smacked down by him. A horse neighed, shattering the silence. A black horse trotted out, carrying a silver-haired girl on its back, her hands bound and mouth gagged, her face twisted in pain. Lucas was stunned to realize there was still someone else to save. At the same time, in a dark realm filled with corpses, a ghostly woman with long horns was lounging in a lake of blood, sipping red wine. Her icy gaze flickered as she realized one of her pawns had been destroyed. "Number 4 is gone. Who dared to touch my toys?" Back with Lucas's group, the silver-haired girl introduced herself as Maya Rastar after being rescued. Hearing the name, Lucas went into deep thought. "Rastar, I feel like I've heard that name somewhere before." Julia nodded in agreement, saying she had heard it too. Foden the butler stepped in to explain that both the Rastar and Ryan families were prominent noble houses living near Dak Town. Lucas immediately realized the familiarity and nodded in confirmation. Julia curiously asked why Maya had been attacked by the bandits. With tears in her eyes, Maya recounted the horrific events from a few hours ago. The bandits had ambushed her carriage. Her guards were brutally murdered in a sea of fire amidst the bandits' maniacal laughter. Even her loyal maid had been captured while trying her best to protect her. Maya choked back tears, remembering how no matter how many times she stated her noble status, it was completely useless. The greedy look in the leader's eyes made it clear that their real goal all along was to kidnap noble children like her for profit. Watching Maya tremble with fear, Lucas gently reassured her, "Don't worry, those punks are all gone now." He stayed silent, his expression thoughtful about the strange turns of events. Late that night by the campfire, Foden brought food to Lucas and informed him that Lady Maya and Julia had gone to rest. Lucas thoughtfully asked for Foden's opinion on what Maya had said. The butler concluded that this was a professional criminal gang that had long been targeting the children of noble families. Lucas clenched his fists, thinking about those who could use magic and possess the terrifying power to control the dead. He declared, "So there's a big boss pulling the strings, huh?" Foden promised to report the incident to their master immediately and contact the Rastar family to cooperate in the investigation. Lucas nodded in agreement but also proposed a plan to avoid any future trouble. The next day, as the caravan entered Dak Town on the border of the Kamina Empire, Julia couldn't hide her surprise and disappointment upon hearing that their sightseeing plans had been canceled. Lucas explained that there might still be accomplices of the bandits in town, so for safety, the group needed to head straight to the Magic Academy immediately, leaving Julia to pout in regret. Though a bit sad, Maya nodded and agreed. "You're right, I agree." Seeing Julia still sulking over the missed outing, Lucas smiled and coaxed her. "You wanted to go to the food district in this town, right? We'll pass by it later, and I'll buy you whatever you like." That line immediately cheered Julia up, and she exclaimed, "Really? Thank you, brother." Maya was completely in awe of the close bond between the two siblings. They were truly inseparable. Just then, Mr. Forden announced that the carriage had reached the town and invited everyone to take in the view outside. As soon as she opened the carriage window, Julia gasped in amazement at the splendor of the place. This was the Empire's second largest town, second only to the capital, filled with ancient architecture and bustling streets. Seeing the busy shops and the crowd, Maya was just as excited to join in the fun. Watching the flow of people, Lucas mused to himself that the atmosphere here reminded him a lot of the city he once lived in his past life. The trip suddenly became lively when a clown appeared outside the window to tease them, startling the two girls. To make up for it, Lucas bought plenty of bread, delicious bread and donuts for them both. Watching Julia and Maya happily enjoying the treats, Lucas felt much more at ease after all the recent events. Finally, the carriage stopped before the majestic Allen Magic Academy. Forden pulled the horses to a halt and slowly announced, "I can only accompany you two this far." Lucas stepped out of the carriage. Looking straight at the devoted butler, he confidently stated, "Head back, old man. I've got this security job covered." Julia wasn't about to be left out, hugging her brother's arm tightly and declaring loudly, "Dad, that's right, and I'll protect my brother too." Lucas ruffled his sister's hair with a smile. "I'm counting on you, little genius mage," Julia replied smugly. "Just leave it to me." Seeing such a heartwarming scene, Forden just smiled in satisfaction, while Maya silently thought that Lucas was such an interesting brother to be protected by his own sister. When the three children walked through the academy gates together, Maya sincerely expressed her appreciation for how kind both siblings were. Maya blushed slightly, thinking about how lucky she was to have gotten to know the Ryan siblings. Looking back at last night, Mr. Forden had suddenly recalled a shocking truth and revealed it to Lucas. Maya was his former fiancée. Talk about a small world. He recalled the scene of the two children playing closely together on the swing when they were little. But tragedy struck right after the blessing ceremony when Lucas was rejected by the gods and labeled as a talentless boy with no magic, leading to the immediate cancellation of the engagement between the two families. The Allen Magic Academy is located in the south, Dak Town, one of the three most prestigious schools in the Kamina Empire. Here, all new students must undergo an exam after 1 year of studying to be classified into earth, fire, wind, water, or the special department based on individual ability. Normally, it takes 6 years for a student to receive a mage certificate, but exceptional individuals can certainly graduate ahead of schedule. Currently, Lucas and Julia were present at the Academy's main square, preparing for the entrance exam. Julia puffed her cheeks in regret because she couldn't take the exam with Maya, but Lucas reassured his sister that Maya was now safe with her family and they would meet again soon, as classmates if they both passed. Hearing that, Julia immediately regained her spirits and excitedly ran to find the reception desk. The appearance of the Ryan siblings quickly caught the attention of the crowd nearby. Everyone couldn't stop praising Lucas's handsome looks and Julia's cuteness. Some even felt envious, wishing they had a cute little sister like that. Just then, a student with an elegant appearance and glasses approached to ask Julia something. It was Mina, the vice president of the student council of the Aladdin Magic Academy. Seeing that Julia looked too young, Mina smiled and asked if she was secretly following her brother. Julia immediately and loudly confirmed, "No, I'm here to take the exam with my brother." Mina was secretly amazed to realize that this little girl was the genius that the Academy's elite course had specifically sent an invitation to. Mina gently leaned down to confirm, "You're Julia from the Ryan family, right?" To Julia's surprise, Mina just gave a mysterious smile and offered to lead the way for her to the reception desk. Being completely ignored from start to finish, Lucas could only break into a cold sweat and sigh, wondering, am I really completely off the radar of that student council girl? Suddenly, Julia remembered, wait, brother, I want to register for the exam too. Mina was startled, realizing she had been too careless. She quickly checked the files again and exclaimed, "Oh, I forgot. Who are you again? Seriously, are you taking the martial arts department exam?" Her words accidentally caused the crowd around them to erupt in mocking laughter and disdain. Someone even mocked how ridiculous it was for a fool to enter a magic academy to practice martial arts, and some even venomously said that a martial artist was at least useful for dealing with magic beasts. Lucas walked calmly amidst the looks of contempt. He understood all too well that these mages always thought they were superior to others, but deep down he knew all of them were just weaklings. Even that Jeremy guy or the monster he once fought was nothing compared to his true strength. To Lucas, they were all just like bugs, and if it weren't for his parents' kindness, he wouldn't have bothered wasting his time in a place like this. Witnessing Lucas's contemplative look, Mina suddenly felt guilty for speaking too loudly and causing him to attract attention. She sighed, blaming herself. Great, my big mouth just got me into trouble. She gently called out to him, Lucas, come with me. After registration, I'll take you to the exam site. Meanwhile, Julia didn't forget to turn back and stick her tongue out to tease the people who had just laughed at her brother to vent her anger. Seeing Mina's attitude, Lucas secretly appreciated that she was someone who didn't look at him with prejudiced eyes. This person is rare, he thought, smiling and replying, Then, I'll trouble you then. The group headed toward the giant dome-shaped building where hundreds of candidates were crowded together to begin the exam. Mina began, controlling the application forms to float in the air with magic and distributing badges to the two siblings. Submit your applications to the student council members, and these are your badges. Your candidate numbers are stored inside, so remember to wear them when entering the exam room. Immediately after, she explained the three main parts of the exam. First, measuring magic potential with magic light. Next, checking elemental compatibility. And finally, measuring destructive power on test dummies. Lucas wondered if candidates for the martial arts department had to undergo the same process, and received a confirmation from Mina that this was to ensure fairness for all departments. Lucas could only break into a cold sweat at this absurdity. He understood that, in reality, the academy was just too lazy to create a separate test for martial arts. Lucas clenched his fists. Full of determination, I understand. I will show you all a fraction of my power to crush the student body's prejudice against martial arts. At the potential measurement area, the headmaster loudly announced the start of the first round and asked the candidates to place their hands one by one on the magic light orb. The judge looked at the orb, magic, and was stunned, blurting out, This is the first time in my life I've seen something like this. A phenomenon that happens only once in 100 years? No, 1,000 years. But in complete contrast. To that amazement, the orb in Lucas's hand showed a big, fat 0. The crowd around them immediately erupted in mocking laughter. A big, fat 0 score. What an unprecedented record. Some people were even catty enough to mock the kid from the martial arts department earlier, saying he had 0 potential. They claimed he wouldn't even be able to improve at all, let alone in the martial arts department. Lucas just sighed wearily. Here we go again. Immediately after, it was Julia's turn to step forward. As her small hand touched the orb, it instantly emitted a mystical purple light, leaving everyone stunned. Huh, purple light? Julia's purple tear style is on a whole different level. That color is iconic. It indicated a potential of 7 out of 11, a score high enough to place Julia among the top candidates of this year's exam. Seeing everyone's amazement, Lucas thought to himself, they're already dazzled by just a little bit of light. He spoke up, coaching his younger sister, Julia. You don't need to hold back anymore today. The little girl confidently replied, I understand. The examiner standing nearby couldn't help but be curious about the instruction. It was strange coming from Lucas. Instantly, Julia focused her mind. The orb in her hands began to emit rays of light, more brilliant and intense than ever before. A surge of dazzling golden light suddenly exploded from the orb, sweeping across the entire plaza, forcing all the candidates to cover their eyes in terror. The examiner was so stunned that he began to tremble. This was golden light. It was just one step away from reaching the maximum value of 10. He recalled that 2 years ago, another student had achieved this level of light, but Julia was much younger than that student. He couldn't help but marvel at such a truly astonishing, innate talent. As the test ended, Julia jumped for joy and rushed straight toward her brother. Brother, did you see that? Was I good? Lucas gently caught his sister and smiled in praise. You were amazing, my Julia. You'll definitely become a great archmage in the future. Amidst the whispers about the massive gap between the two siblings, someone intended to mock Lucas as talentless, but they were immediately silenced by their friend. Shut your mouth! If you dare to insult her brother in front of her, who knows what she might do? Don't make an enemy of a genius just because of a piece of trash. Seeing everything unfolding exactly as planned, Lucas wore a mysterious smile. It was all part of his script. Julia puffed up her cheeks to defend her brother, loudly declaring, To the crowd, if anyone dares to bully my brother, I will never forgive them. Lucas secretly calculated that if Julia revealed her full talent and terrifying potential, he would have a more peaceful school life. In reality, for the past 3 years, he had quietly dedicated all his efforts to using magic enhancement techniques to train and elevate his sister's talent. All his efforts had finally borne fruit. The examiner then loudly announced the start of the second round and requested everyone to move to the spirit house. Lucas gently patted Julia's head encouragingly. Today is the time for all my efforts to bloom. The giant gate of the academy slowly opened with a deep, rumbling sound, waiting for the candidates to enter the next challenge. Lucas held Julia's hand tightly, and the two walked together toward the brilliant light, glowing ahead. At the compatibility testing site, an unprecedented scene was unfolding that left everyone stunned. Countless elemental spirits from fire, water, to wind and earth simultaneously manifested, dancing brilliantly all over the hall. The crowd gasped. Are the spirits dancing? At the center of that mystical light, Julia stood firm, surrounded by powerful spirits fighting for a chance to approach her. Witnessing this scene, another candidate complained bitterly, even though I received the level 6 blessing of the wind god, not a single wind spirit cares to come near me. People began to realize a shocking truth. All the spirits were heading toward that one child. Could it be that she has maximum compatibility with every magical element? They were shocked to admit that Julia's talent was truly terrifying. Observing from afar, Lucas felt secretly satisfied. Very good. The spirit vessel technique I invented is successfully elevating Julia's potential. He told himself that even though Julia was currently only at level 2, that was more than enough to pass this entrance exam. Immediately after, an announcement rang out loud and clear. Julia Rian's compatibility is 90, the highest score among all candidates. The examiner smiled to congratulate her, and Julia politely replied, Thank you, sir. However, the excessive attention from the crowd began to make Julia feel pressured. The dark shadows nearby kept whispering, She's so talented and so cute. Let's be friends. Feeling frightened by the prying eyes, Julia immediately rushed to hug her brother and called out, Brother! Seeing his sister trembling, Lucas kindly asked, What's wrong? Julia sobbed. Why is everyone looking at me like that? It's so scary. Lucas gently patted her head to reassure her. It's okay, because you're a genius, Julia. From now on, you'll have to get used to many more looks like that. Lucas continued to soothe his sister. Don't worry about what others think. Just slowly get used to it, Julia. Hearing that, she regained her resolve. She firmly stated, You're right, brother. I need to become stronger because I will protect you. Julia really is the ultimate national little sister. Lucas smiled encouragingly. That's right, do your best. However, deep down, he realized he also needed to train Julia to have a heart of steel and the courage to face public opinion. At the same time, malicious whispers rose up from behind. With talent like that, I initially thought she had royal blood, but since her brother is such a loser, that's probably not it. When someone asked about Lucas's compatibility, the reply was pure mockery. Probably a big fat zero. Just watch, haha! Indeed, the moment Lucas walked by, the elemental spirits instantly scattered to avoid him. The crowd witnessing the scene could only shake their heads in contempt, thinking that even the spirits felt disgusted being near him. Among the crowd, the rumors about Lucas began to spread. One candidate whispered to their friend about the strange phenomenon that occurred right after the second round. He insisted that the moment Lucas walked out, a fire spirit's arm was torn off, which scared him so much he couldn't even speak. Although his friend argued that spirits are tiny and he probably just misread the situation, Lucas heard it all as he walked by. He thought to himself that he didn't expect to have a witness from that second round. Memories surfaced for Lucas. He realized that perhaps because he was rejected by the fire god, the fire spirit's attitude toward him was extremely terrible. They constantly made ugly faces, teasing and mocking him. Even when the test ended and Lucas turned to leave, one fire spirit was so brazen that it spat fire at him. Always holding a grudge against those who dared to mess with him, Lucas coldly picked up a small stone, channeled his force into his fingertips, and flicked the stone with wind-tearing speed, directly shattering the arm of that insolent fire spirit. Deep down, he affirmed, a servant of the fire god has no right to act so arrogantly in front of me. Returning to reality, Lucas gently took his sister's hand and urged, Julia, let's head to the final test. With a playful grin, Lucas asked if his brother was planning on taking the top spot again. Lucas chuckled in reply, joking that he intended to let his little sister protect him so he wouldn't need to show off too much. Both of them headed toward the magical destruction test area, where the metal test dummies were already lined up. Watching Julia shine, a student from the magic class gritted their teeth in frustration, itching to take their anger out on a test dummy. When someone worried that the Ryan family genius would destroy the target, another male student immediately dismissed it, claiming it was impossible. He explained that these dolls were crafted from special metal and reinforced with defensive magic strong enough to withstand attacks below the curse level. He insisted that at Julia's age, there was no way she could unleash a curse-level attack. Lucas stood watching the sturdy dolls ahead, silently clenching his fist. His eyes ignited with determination as he realized this was the perfect opportunity to test his level 6 skills. Lucas thought to himself that school life wasn't so bad when you had access to such expensive equipment. While standing in line with Julia, a loud shout suddenly erupted from behind. Hey! Don't cut in line! Wait your turn! A girl with shoulder-length hair stepped forward, pointing her finger arrogantly. The rule here is that the talentless belong at the back. The person being criticized was a girl with long black hair, whose eyes suddenly glowed with such intense pressure that the opponent flinched in fear, unable to say another word. She felt a terrifying sensation, as if her heart were being squeezed by something invisible. Then the girl's gaze shifted to the Lucas siblings. She looked down at Julia and pressed, "So you're Julia, the one who got a perfect score on the compatibility test?" Faced with the girl's overwhelming aura, Julia cowered behind her brother and trembled. "Brother, this woman is so scary." Lucas stepped forward calmly to shield his sister, then asked coldly, "And who are you?" The girl held her head high and introduced herself. "I am Iwa Miranda, granddaughter of Duke Miranda." The name Miranda immediately made Lucas pause to reflect on the family, one of the 3 most powerful clans in the north, known for producing legendary mages. He quickly realized the blood connection. In other words, this girl was the daughter of his uncle Sean, his mother's younger brother. Lucas smiled slightly and asked a familiar question. "Iwa, how old are you this year?" "I'm 15, Iwa replied with a look of extreme annoyance. Lucas remained unfazed. He advised her not to look at him with such sharp eyes, since they were actually cousins. This declaration made Iwa explode in fury. She shouted, "How rude! I have never heard of having any cousins like you. To punish the person daring to impersonate her kin, Iwa immediately activated a glowing hexagonal magic circle that enveloped Lucas. She gritted her teeth and ordered cruelly, "Strip and dance, so everyone can see how pathetic you are." Lucas smiled nonchalantly at Iwa's attack and teased, "Using mental magic on a relative the first time you meet? Is this how the Miranda family raises their children?" Iwa was horrified to find her strongest magic completely ineffective. Deep down, Lucas scornfully thought that such cheap magic could never control a martial artist with such a firm will. As the speaker called out Lucas Rian for his turn, he walked off leisurely. "Too bad. I have to go." Still unwilling to give up, Iwa pointed at Julia and snapped, "Julia, don't get cocky. I'm going to take the #1 spot in this test." Looking at the scoreboard, Julia was first and Iwa was second. Lucas realized she had come specifically to declare war. He told himself that for the sake of his own peace, he couldn't let his sister lose the top spot. Lucas pulled out a pill and asked, "Julia, want a candy?" Julia innocently popped it into her mouth and started chewing, but immediately began coughing and sputtering. "You tricked me! What kind of candy is this bitter like poison?" Lucas laughed it off. "Sorry," he explained. "It's a special magic potion made from rare ingredients, and you'll realize its effects soon enough." As the proctor urged him onto the field, Lucas waved goodbye. "I'll improve the flavor next time. I'm off." Julia could only glare at him, resentful because she no longer trusted her brother's promises. Lucas stepped decisively into the arena under the watchful eyes of the proctor. The proctor demanded, "Attack this test dummy with all your magical power. We will evaluate the destructive force to determine your final score. Begin now." Lucas replied calmly, "I don't use magic." Seeing the proctor's bewildered expression, Lucas clenched his fist and asked, "Instead, can I use a physical attack?" Seeing Lucas prepare to take a destruction test with just a physical punch, the crowd started whispering and mocking him, trying to brute force it. He's going to break his arm for sure. Typical these boorish martial artists. His arm will snap any second now. Hearing these insults, Julia gritted her teeth in anger. She thought to herself that if her brother hadn't told her to be a good student, she would have beaten this crowd to a pulp for looking down on him. Standing right next to her, Mina also asked curiously, "Is it really true that your brother can't use magic at all?" Even though her mental magic had no effect on Lucas, Mina still found it hard to believe that someone without a shred of magic power could do anything impressive. She silently pitied Julia, thinking the poor girl had been deceived by her brother because, in her opinion, a martial artist couldn't amount to anything. Yet Julia proudly insisted, "He really can't use magic, but he is absolutely amazing." Suddenly, a heaven-shaking explosion rang out along with a terrifying blast of pressure that sent everything flying, causing the entire plaza to shudder. Through the thick dust, Mina stared in shock at the shattered target and gasped, "What just happened?" Turning back to 2 minutes earlier, Lucas had carefully asked the proctor if he could use a physical attack. Receiving a nod confirming that the method of attack didn't matter, he responded calmly, "All right, let me clear out this pile of scrap metal in a heartbeat." Lucas calculated internally. His martial arts skills increased drastically every 3 levels. With his strongest current technique, the Fatal Extreme, already boosted to max speed at level 3, he believed that now that he had reached level 6, its power would be pushed to a whole new level. Lucas's entire body began to radiate a brilliant golden aura. He stomped hard on the ground for momentum and closed the distance to the target in a flash, funneling all his power into a fist glowing like a fireball. Lucas landed a direct punch on the giant sandbag, the strike carrying such devastating power that it tore straight through the target. With a surge of sheer force, an explosion erupted, leaving a deep crater right in the center of the test dummy's chest. Watching from afar, Mina was stunned, her magical eyes glowing as she stood there in silent amazement. Is this guy hacking or what? Even high-level wind magic can barely do that, and since the dummy is glowing gold, that attack definitely carried some kind of curse-level power. While the surrounding students were still cluelessly debating whether this talentless martial artist had just punched the target away, Mina had already realized the truth. It seemed she was the only one who noticed Lucas's true strength. As she continued to watch him through the monitor, she concluded that he was deliberately hiding his power. He was truly a terrifying individual. Back at the scene, the judge was still convinced it was just a fluke. "You're very lucky. This is the first time in over a decade this dummy has malfunctioned. I'll give you a perfect score. The judge is so naive. Lucas is totally hacking the game, guys." Lucas calmly replied, "Thank you, sir. Do I need to clean up this fallen dummy?" The judge waved him off, telling him to move on, saying he would use magic to move the heavy debris. Lucas then smiled, gave a thumbs up to Julia, and walked away. He thought to himself that not only did he avoid failing, but he also kept his true strength a secret. He really should thank those who looked down on him. As time passed, the attention on Lucas began to fade, just as he had wanted. However, the focal point of the entire ceremony shifted toward Julia and her shockingly innate talent. She stood in the center of the magic circle, her platinum hair fluttering in a brilliant purple energy current. Bolts of lightning began to encircle her, creating such terrifying pressure that the surrounding candidates were left stunned and trembling in fear. Julia focused all her mana into her staff, loudly activating her skill Thunder God's Descent. A crimson pillar of lightning carrying destructive power descended from the sky, swallowing the test dummy in a blinding flash. The crowd exploded in shock. "It's red lightning! Someone pull the plug on that thing!" They began praising lightning magic as the most powerful attack style, all of them longing to reach that level as special students before graduation. However, the moment the light faded, everyone was left bewildered again as they saw Julia sitting slumped on the ground with a dazed expression. Some even skeptically asked if she had been dizzied by her own magic. Julia stared at her hands in shock, unable to believe the scoreboard was displaying a 9.5. "Perfect!" Julia stammered as she told her brother that when she used Thunder God's Descent, those red lightning bolts struck out of nowhere, shocking her because she could only ever manifest purple lightning even at full power. Feeling a surge of power far more savage than usual, Julia couldn't help but wonder about this strange change. Lucas, standing beside her, only offered a secret smile. He knew full well the reason was the magical pill he had given his sister earlier to temporarily boost her power. "Gotta keep this hidden, or she'll be asking for more candy and I'll be in trouble," he told himself. He explained that in this world, both mages and martial artists had their own unique pharmaceutical skills. But while mages needed catalysts to brew potions, martial artists used alchemy techniques to create pills that could be absorbed directly into the body. However, as martial arts gradually declined, alchemy had almost become a lost art. For a martial artist to be able to create an energy boost pill to enhance someone else like Lucas did was extremely rare in this era. The simple reason is that to craft that kind of medicinal pill, one must reach the 6th level of alchemy. Currently, only Duke Rasuzan, the Minister of Martial Affairs, a 9th-level martial artist in the entire empire, can do that, making even the greatest mages bow down to beg him for medicine. Knowing that revealing this ability would bring massive trouble, Lucas told himself he had to keep his 6th-level status a secret. A while later, while waiting on a stone bench, Julia grew impatient and asked if everything was done yet. Lucas gently reassured her, "Be patient a little longer, sis. Once the class placement list is posted, we'll both have time to rest in the dormitory." Just then, Mina appeared and headed toward the siblings with a file in her hand. Mina smiled and announced that she was there to post the placement list, and didn't forget to send her warm congratulations. "Congratulations to you both! You both ranked #1 in the elite class and the martial arts class." Julia jumped for joy, not expecting to rank first in the elite class. Mina turned to Julia to ask about her preferred department for the coming year, choosing between earth, fire, wind, water, or the special department. She suggested that with the blessing of the Thunder God, Julia was a perfect fit for the wind department. Before the girl could even react, Mina excitedly grabbed Julia's hand and pulled her away, insisting she would be waiting for her at the wind department. Watching this, Lucas just broke into a cold sweat, realizing how desperate the academy was to recruit top-tier talents like his sister. After leaving his sister with Mina to be taken to the women's dorm, Lucas waved goodbye to Julia and headed toward the martial arts department's dorm alone. Passing by the bulletin board crowded with people, he heard whispers of jealousy about Julia Rian's top spot. The students complained that all the freshmen this year seemed like nothing more than background characters for the shining Ryan genius. However, in a hidden corner under a tree, a mysterious black-haired girl with eyes burning in hatred stared fixedly at the list. Lucas stood frozen in front of the martial arts dorm building. He knew this place wasn't well regarded, but the reality far exceeded his expectations. Looking at the ruins before him, he nervously asked himself, "Can we really live in this? It looks like it's about to collapse. We're here!" However, Lucas quickly composed himself, consoling himself that at least here he would have a peaceful school life without anyone bothering him. Just then, a tall young man with silver hair unexpectedly appeared from behind and greeted him. "Yo, Lucas, the one who wrecked the martial arts entrance exam, right?" The guy warmly introduced himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm Kai Taro, also from the martial arts department." As they shook hands, Kai couldn't stop praising the punch that sent the test dummy flying, saying, "You're seriously amazing!" Lucas, signing the registry, humbly replied, "I just got lucky." After completing the procedures, the manager handed them the keys and announced, "Your room is on the second floor. Take the keys and go." Seeing room number 205 on Lucas's key, Kai excitedly shouted, "Same room! Let's head up together." Stopping in front of the door, Kai muttered, "Room 300 is here." As they opened the door and walked in, they ran into two roommates who had already arrived and were sitting there waiting. The blue-haired guy smiled and initiated a handshake. "Nice to meet you guys, I'm Colin. Looks like we're roommates from today on." The blonde-haired friend standing behind him also happily introduced himself. "I'm Sap. Nice to meet you." But Kai suddenly went pale when he saw the scene inside the room. It looked like an abandoned warehouse with cobwebs covering the walls, peeling paint, and dirty broken beds. Kai clutched his face and screamed in terror, "What the hell is this room? This place is worse than a pigsty." Kai is having serious culture shock. He jumps up when he sees a spider crawling by and panics, asking, "Lucas, how can you stand this dump?" Lucas looks at his friend's expression and thinks to himself, "A neat freak, how annoying." Suddenly, Kai pulls out a shiny gold coin, making Colin and Sap's eyes pop out in shock. He holds the coin high and declares loudly, "I'll give this coin to whoever cleans this room until it's spotless." Colin and Sap immediately agree to Kai's offer. Lucas, standing nearby, can't help but be amazed at how well off his friend is, casually tossing out an amount far exceeding a commoner's monthly salary just to hire a cleaning crew. Turns out, Kai is the young master of the Teroi family, one of the three most powerful noble families in the northern part of the empire. While his two roommates start scrubbing away, Kai doesn't stop complaining, "I didn't sign up for this academy to live in a dump like this." Lucas tries to reassure him that this is the prestigious Allen Magic Academy and the living conditions will surely improve soon. But as soon as he spots a black spider crawling on the wall, Kai shrieks in horror, "This is literally a prison cell." Lucas just warns his friend to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't want to get dragged off by the student council for insulting the academy. Before long, thanks to the power of money, the room is sparkling clean and looks brand new. Kai excitedly hands the shiny gold coins to Colin and Sap as promised, then declares proudly, "Don't worry. With the big spender Kai here, no one will dare mess with you guys." He even confidently claims he's quite famous in this town, leaving his two friends in awe. Watching the scene, Lucas thinks to himself, even though Kai is a bit arrogant, he's actually a generous guy and hard to hate. Just then, an elderly man knocks and enters, carrying new uniforms in his arms. He announces he's there to deliver the gear and tells the group to change quickly to make it to the opening ceremony in the main hall. As soon as Kai picks up his uniform, he panics again and shouts, "What kind of cheap, raggedy uniform is this? If I wear this, I'll look like a total loser." While Colin and Sap don't think it's that bad, Lucas starts pondering things he's heard before. He knows the academy has a system for students to submit requests, so an idea pops into his head and he says to Kai, "If we demand better treatment at the ceremony, maybe they'll swap us for some nicer uniforms." Kai buys it hook, line, and sinker and urges the group to hurry to the hall, leaving Lucas to sigh, "What a gullible little chick, believe anything you tell him." The group leaves the dorms, heading toward the majestic main hall building, which has a massive statue of a mage riding a broomstick out front. Lucas puts on his new uniform and steps inside. He is blown away by the splendor and scale of the Academy's hall, where brilliant chandeliers light up a massive space filled with hundreds of students. Lucas mutters to himself, "Wow, this hall is seriously luxurious." Hearing this, Kai, standing next to him, keeps his arrogant look, thinking this place doesn't even compare to his family mansion. Lucas starts scanning the crowd and asks worriedly, "Where's Julia?" Kai quickly catches on to his intent and points toward the front rows. "Looking for your sister?" The elite class always gets priority seating in the front rows. Man, those elite uniforms really are something else. They look so premium. He also reminds Lucas that martial arts students have to sit in the very back rows, so if he wants to talk to his sister, he better hurry up. Lucas looks at Julia and smiles, thinking, "My sister looks gorgeous in anything. She's the best." The group trudges toward the back of the hall. Kai keeps grumbling about how the martial arts department is being discriminated against by having to sit so far away. Lucas quietly settles into his seat next to his new friends, preparing for the ceremony to begin. Suddenly, a fierce flame erupts from high above, grabbing the attention of every freshman. A powerful level 6 fire spell called Fire Moon appears, blazing and engulfing the hall as the crowd watches in awe. Amidst the sea of flames, a guy with fiery red hair appears majestically and declares loudly, "You freshmen should feel honored." He slowly lands on the stage and introduces himself. "I am Theo Foreman, the student council president. Today I will introduce you all to our school's point system." Witnessing a level 6 magic display before graduation, the students below can't stop praising him. That's amazing. His aura is terrifying. He's a true genius. While everyone is excited, Lucas keeps a calm expression, observing the president on stage. Theo continues to explain that at Aladdin Magic Academy, the point system is the foundation of everything. Any learning resource from magic skills, rare books, and precious materials to tamed magical beasts, and direct instruction from grandmasters can all be traded for points. Theo starts listing ways to earn points. First is through manual labor, such as mining minerals or cooking, but this only brings in 1 to 5 points per hour, an extremely meager amount. This academy really exploits the students. He emphasizes that instead of labor, participating in departmental events is much more efficient. Even this orientation is a prime time for upperclassmen to rake in points. Another way to earn a steady monthly income is to join the student council, with a salary of 500 points for the president, 200 for the vice president, and 100 for regular members. Finally, there is a fairly dangerous method to earn points hunting monsters. He explains that behind the school lies the range of magical beasts, famous for the countless fierce creatures lurking within. If students can hunt them and submit the collected materials, they will receive corresponding points. Hearing this, Lucas isn't afraid at all. Instead, he breaks into a smug smile. "The magical beast range, huh? That place is my personal playground." A few hours later, as night falls, Lucas begins his plan. Thanks to the effect of some sedatives, his roommates have all fallen into a deep sleep. Lucas sneaks out of the dorm, thinking that the fact the martial arts department is at the very end of the campus is a huge advantage for him to act without being detected. Standing behind the building, Lucas looks up at the towering wall separating them from the outside world. He knows that once he clears this wall, he will step into the dangerous mountain range full of monsters. Without a moment's hesitation, Lucas stomps his foot to gain momentum and leaps high into the air. He crosses the fortified wall like a ghost in the night, charging straight into the old forest where the monsters are lurking. As soon as he lands, a massive beast with deep purple skin suddenly lunges to attack. Lucas nimbly dodges the opponent's swipe and pivots to land a lightning-fast strike. The powerful blow slams directly into the monster's head, crushing it into the ground with enough force to create a shattered crater. Looking at the defeated beast, Lucas realizes it's a massive black-horned she. He knows the horn of this poisonous species is a precious material for crafting magic potions, and will definitely trade for a lot of points. Lucas's true goal in coming here is to accumulate enough points to own the legendary martial arts techniques of the martial god. Standing on a rocky cliff under the crescent moon, Alan quickly scanned his surroundings to pinpoint the location of the next magical beasts. Lucas narrowed his eyes, activating his ocular technique, his pupils flaring with an intense golden glow. A wave of spiritual energy rippled from his body, spreading through the forest like radar. He was hunting for his targets. Suddenly, a level 1 shelled rat with rough skin and razor-sharp teeth lunged out to attack. Without a hint of hesitation, Lucas threw a punch. The sheer force of the blow knocked the beast down instantly. He said coldly, "Sleep tight, and don't come back as a rat in your next life." The night hunt continued. It was full of thrills. He confronted a level 3 leopard, unleashing a strike so powerful it shattered the ground, taking it out in a heartbeat. Lucas smiled, satisfied as he looked at the sack, stuffed to the brim on his shoulder. What a haul today. Besides materials for points, I've got ingredients for alchemy too. However, he suddenly noticed something odd when the forest fell eerily silent. Kneeling to inspect the ground, Lucas realized the traces of other magical beasts had almost vanished. He secretly suspected that a creature of immense power was dominating this area, causing the other monsters to flee in terror. Lucas focused, firing up his spiritual energy once more, to find answers. From deep within a dark cave, a thick, dark purple and blue malevolent aura began to ooze out menacingly. A pair of glowing purple eyes and razor-sharp fangs, filled with bloodlust, appeared in the darkness. Lucas smirked confidently. "Found you." He dashed through the trees at top speed, realizing his opponent had detected his presence even from a kilometer away. Landing in a clearing, Lucas stood face to face with a massive creature covered in gray and white fur. It was a level 6 ice fire wolf, an apex predator growling with drool-dripping fangs, ready to tear apart anyone who dared trespass on its territory. Lucas smiled. I see, so that's it. Being a wolf, its instinct to defend its territory was incredibly strong. The beast immediately charged, but Lucas was ready. Bring it on! The wolf instantly opened its mouth and spewed out. A bone-chilling blast of cold, but Lucas bravely charged straight through the icy mist. His hand was covered in a thin layer of frost from the attack of his opponent. The wolf was stunned to see its enemy unfazed. Seizing the opening, Lucas delivered a massive punch to the monster's front leg. The impact was strong, enough to knock the wolf's huge body back, sending it crashing to the ground in pain. Looking at his motionless opponent, Lucas muttered with a hint of regret, if I'd practiced more, I could have. Blown its leg right off. He calmly shook the remaining ice off his hand and ordered coldly, Get up! You're not finished yet with just that. Was that all? As if responding to the challenge, the wolf struggled to its feet with blood dripping from its maw, its eyes burning with hatred. Fire began to gather in its throat, then erupted into a massive, furious pillar of flame that scorched everything nearby. Amidst the intense heat, the wolf stood at the center of the fire, its entire body now, enveloped in a powerful, fiery glow. The ice fire wolf roared, its whole body blazing intensely as if to burn away anyone standing in its path. Lucas didn't flinch. He clenched his fist, gathering glowing spiritual energy to prepare for the finishing move. Just as his opponent lunged, Lucas moved like lightning and landed a thunderous direct punch, right into the beast's sharp jaws. The terrifying force sent the giant monster flying dozens of meters, crashing into a cliffside and causing a dusty explosion. The wolf collapsed to the ground, its breathing ragged and weak after such a devastating blow. Looking at the defeated foe from afar, Lucas mused, Ice and fire, huh? And it still got beaten to a pulp by me. The beast lay flattened. On the ground, its purple eyes fading from exhaustion. The wolf's pupils trembled in sheer terror as it saw Lucas's shadow slowly looming over it with golden eyes burning with intense pressure. Lucas remarked coldly, What a rare magical beast. Suddenly, the ice fire wolf launched a counterattack by spitting out 2 powerful blasts of ice and fire energy at once. Seeing the white mist covering everything, Lucas realized, Wait, it's using the thick smoke to obscure my vision. The wolf quickly turned its head and fled deep into the darkness. No, Lucas wouldn't let his target escape, so he gave chase, shouting, I won't let you get away. He leaped forward, grabbed the beast's massive body and slammed it, hard onto the ground. Standing over his defeated prey, Lucas satisfiedly thought, This is the kind of boss hunting that's worth the effort, time to bank those points. However, he suddenly froze, alert when he saw the monster suddenly stir. Lucas nimbly leaped back to dodge a terrifying fire spell explosion. The ice fire wolf frantically spat out massive pillars of flame, burning everything around it in a fit of extreme rage. He darted through the heat waves while the monster kept roaring, unleashing its full power. In a desperate attempt to burn its enemy alive, Lucas dropped from the sky like a god. Stay still and take your lesson. Quit struggling. A massive pillar of golden light carrying the power of destruction slammed into the ground, creating a horrifying explosion that sent rocks flying and kicked up clouds of dust. The ice fire wolf lay flat in a deep crater, its body broken and breathing. Gasping in utter despair, it wondered if its life would end here. Realizing there was no escape from Lucas's overwhelming power, the monster decided to use its last resort to stay alive. Instead of fighting back, it suddenly curled up, emitting pathetic whines, its eyes clearly showing total submission to its conqueror. 2 glowing orbs of energy, one icy blue and the other fiery red, suddenly floated up and landed in Lucas's palm. He realized in surprise that these were mana cores, an extremely rare magical ingredient and the life force of powerful beasts. From what he knew, if a drop of human blood touched a mana core, that beast would forever become the loyal subordinate of that person. Looking at the wolf whining at his feet, Lucas asked coldly, Do you wish to become a beast under my command? Lucas smiled in satisfaction. Very well, I accept you. He thought to himself that this was an unexpected harvest, as even for high-level mages, taming a level 6 beast as a subordinate was incredibly rare. Lucas thought, Am I hacking the game? Why is this so easy? Even though he felt the wolf didn't seem very bright to give up its pride so easily, Lucas still pulled out a small knife and decisively cut his finger. As soon as a drop of fresh blood touched the two energy orbs, a brilliant light erupted, officially forging a soul contract between the two. Just as it swallowed the two energy orbs, the ice firewolf suddenly emanated a strange new aura. Lucas was stunned when he heard a voice resonate inside his. "Headmaster, it is I." He was shocked to realize that after the contract he could understand its language. Lucas smiled, patted the monster's head, and gave it a new name. "Good boy. From now on, I'll call you Uru." The wolf bowed its head in respectful submission. "Understood, master." Lucas pondered. If Uru is my subordinate, then the entire territory. This place now belongs to you as well. You wonder if the wolf has managed to collect any valuable loot from its hunts. As if understanding its master's intent, it sniffs Lucas's hand lightly and excitedly leads the way. "My treasure is this way. Please follow me, master." Lucas smiles and follows. "You're so thoughtful." Together they traverse the rugged cliffs to head deep into the monster's lair. Stepping inside, Lucas is overwhelmed by a massive pile of loot, including Tier 6 magical beast skins, iron-armed monkey bones, and countless radiant gemstones. He drools with delight at the prospect of trading it all for a mountain of points. "Points, here I come. I'm gonna be rich, boys." But Uru looks puzzled. "Master, what are you doing? My treasure isn't this pile, it's over here." Lucas turns and is stunned to see a bag stuffed with magical beast crystals from Tier 3 and above. There are even two precious Tier 6 ones. Uru explains that those are water and fire attribute magical cores it has been saving up. Since it needs to eat cores from rivals of equal or greater strength to level up, Lucas secretly marvels this means Uru has taken down at least two incredibly powerful enemies. He takes out a medicinal pill to reward it. "Eat this and keep working hard." The ginger boss, smelling the alluring scent, swallows it immediately and feels a burst of vitality surge through its body. The wounds heal quickly. Lucas gives a firm command. "This is recovery medicine for beasts. While you recuperate, stay here and guard this treasure for me." Uru excitedly accepts the order. "Leave it to me." Lucas stands before the cave entrance with a look of confidence. Now, what's next? He smiles mysteriously, as if already prepared for his upcoming plans at the academy. The next morning, radiant sunlight covers the majestic academy building. Inside the classroom, the new students of the martial arts department have gathered in full for their first day. Sitting in class, Lucas can't help but yawn sleepily. He tells himself that even though he stayed up all night thanks to the sedative incense, all fatigue has completely vanished. He recalls the hilarious scene from last night, where he was busy tallying the loot and was constantly pestered by Uru with affectionate face licks. The clock strikes 9, but the classroom remains strangely silent. Colin looks around, puzzled, asking where the teacher is. Logically, the teacher should have been waiting for the first day of the freshmen, not letting the students sit around waiting like this. Kai can't help but shout in anxiety. "Forgot the teacher? What kind of academy is this?" Lucas calmly replies that such a thing definitely couldn't happen. Suddenly, hurried footsteps echo down the hallway. He curses in regret for having drunk too much last night. Immediately after, the classroom door is kicked open violently, startling the whole class. A man with stubble leans his hands on the door and announces loudly, "I am Saigon, your homeroom teacher for the martial arts department. The lesson starts right now." Lucas silently observes this disheveled professor with a wary eye. Saigon walks to the blackboard, lazily writes his name, and lets out a long, weary yawn. While holding the attendance book, Kai looks at the sloppy professor with a look of disdain. He leans close to Lucas's ear and whispers, "What kind of teacher is this sloppy?" Just looking at him is annoying. Instantly, a piece of chalk flies through the air and strikes Kai squarely in the forehead, making him cry out in pain. Lucas watches Saigon's agile movements in astonishment and silently assesses. "A Tier 6 martial artist? This guy is no joke." Saigon coldly declares, "From now on, talking without my permission is strictly prohibited. I will now take attendance." He begins calling names. A girl with short hair named Tacy answers clearly, and then it is Lucas's turn. Looking at Tacy, Lucas remembers seeing her at the opening ceremony. She stood out for her composure, so different from the noisy crowd around her. After finishing attendance for Colin and Sap, Saigon abruptly closes the book and announces, "Good, everyone is here. Let's see, today's lesson is, oh, I forgot to bring the textbooks. Tacy, I appoint you as class president. Go to my research office and bring the books here." Tacy looks confused, pointing at herself. "Huh? Me?" Saigon confirms indifferently. "That's right." Seeing this, Kai immediately slams his desk and stands up to protest vehemently. Wait a minute. The class president must be decided fairly through competition among candidates. He begins to smugly boast about his wealthy family background and his abilities, asserting that he is the only one worthy of the position. But before he can finish, another piece of chalk flies at extreme speed, striking him square in the face, knocking Kai backward until he falls over. Immediately, Saigon coldly repeats, "No talking." After instructing Tacy to distribute the textbooks and ordering the class to study on their own for the day, the disheveled professor nonchalantly turns and walks out of the room. Tacy answers clearly. A fierce determination rises within her. She tells herself she will seize this opportunity as class president to change her own destiny. Meanwhile, Kai rubs his swollen head and whines about the violent teacher, while Lucas observes thoughtfully and realizes there is something very wrong with this man. Hearing Kai bitterly suggest going to report the teacher to the administration to get him fired, Lucas remains silent, tracking Saigon's back, observing every step closely. He realizes the way the man shifts his weight shows he has suffered extremely serious injuries in the past. Lucas silently wonders in awe if he is this scary now. Then, how strong was this man before he was injured? He believes that having such a powerful teacher will make his upcoming school life full of promise. A few hours later, the group is at the academy's cafeteria area. On the way, Kai hasn't stopped complaining about that damn teacher making the whole class study by themselves all morning. He angrily insists that Saigon is a terrible teacher, both irresponsible and arbitrary in choosing a class president. Just then, Julia excitedly runs over from afar and calls out loudly, "Big brother." Lucas kindly pats his little sister's head and asks about her first day of school. Julia happily boasts that her homeroom teacher, Linda, is an incredibly kind person. She even encourages Julia to try her best to become class president next week. Hearing this, Kai trembles even more with frustration, realizing that other classes have a proper election process for class president. After 1 week of starting school, not like our class's dictatorship. Julia curiously asks if her brother was chosen as the class president for the martial arts department. Lucas smiles and replies that it wasn't him. He quickly changes the subject to ease the tension. More importantly, let's go eat lunch. I heard the food here is delicious. Lucas dodges the drama as quickly as he dodges a boss's attack. Julia, hearing this, excitedly grabs her brother's hand and pulls him away immediately, leaving Kai trailing behind. At Aladdin Magic Academy, even eating follows a strict point exchange system. For the freshmen who just arrived, the food here is delicious. Lucas dodges the drama as quickly as he dodges a boss's attack. Julia, hearing this, excitedly pulls her brother along, leaving Kai dragging himself behind. Following behind at Aladdin Magic Academy, even eating follows a strict point exchange system. For the freshmen who just arrived, points can only be exchanged for cash once, right at the start. However, the exchange rates vary significantly depending on the department, which the student belongs to. On the dining table, plates of sweet pastries and delicious egg rolls give off an intoxicating aroma that leaves Julia absolutely thrilled. She eats excitedly and calls out, "This is so good! Big brother, you should have some too." In stark contrast to the elite class's abundance, Kai is forced to gnaw on a piece of dry bread in utter frustration. He bitterly realizes the ridiculous injustice of the academy. For the same amount of currency, the elite class gets 100 points, but the martial arts department only gets a measly 10. Just points? That's completely absurd. Kai even rushed to the reception desk to complain, but only received a cold response from the staff. Those are the rules. If you don't like it, then feel free to get out. He could only lower his head, feeling helpless against the blatant discrimination directed at martial arts students, even from the faculty. The female clerk wearing glasses added, "Insult to injury," stating that in this place, whether you're noble or a commoner doesn't matter. Students without magical talent are forced to struggle to accumulate points. Kai chews on his bread while tearing up out of self-pity. He feels like enrolling here is no different from having his basic human rights stripped away. Witnessing that pathetic sight, Julia gently pushed a tray full of grilled meat over and said, "Brother Kai, you should eat this too." This warm gesture touched Kai deeply, and he started sobbing with gratitude toward Julia. "You really are such a kind girl." Standing nearby, Lucas was left speechless at his new friend's over-the-top reaction. Just then, a familiar figure started heading toward their table to share their meal. Maya Rastar appeared with a radiant smile on her face. She greeted them gently. "Hello, Lucas. Hello, Julia. We meet again." Julia cheered happily and immediately invited Maya to sit and eat with them. Maya politely declined since she had already eaten, but she pulled out a small bag of cookies and said gently, "I baked some cookies. To thank you for the other day, would you all like to try some?" Julia eagerly accepted and couldn't stop praising them as she enjoyed the delicious cookies with a cup of hot coffee. "Wow, these are so good, thank you." Even Lucas was drawn in by the wonderful flavor, while Julia kept raving about Maya's skillful cooking. Seeing how good the food was, Kai immediately rushed over to ask for a piece and didn't hold back his praise. "This is delicious. The quality is easily on par with the special sweets of the Taro family. Anyway, it's great to meet you. I'm Kai Taro." Maya blushed slightly and replied modestly, "I'm Maya Rastar. I'm honored to receive your compliment." Kai quickly turned to nudge Lucas and tease him. "Look at you, knowing such a beautiful lady like this, aren't you?" Lucas could only offer a strained smile, thinking to himself that he absolutely must not let them know Maya was his former fiancée. After saying goodbye and watching Maya's back, as she left, Lucas let out a weary sigh. He realized the chances of running into acquaintances in this cafeteria were disturbingly high. He recalled the time when Mina approached his table to ask how the cafeteria food was. Suddenly, whispers broke out as Theo appeared, floating on the balcony using fire magic. "It's Senior. Theo! He's so cool." Lucas silently judged the student council president. He really loves showing off by flying around with magic, even in public. But the secret behind that halo was discovered by Lucas Tinker when he caught Theo exhausted in a secluded corner. He was chugging a potion and muttering, "That was close. I almost couldn't use 6th tier magic. Good thing the potion helped me keep up my cool image in front of the new students." Lucas chewed his donut and pondered. He actually used to think Theo was amazing until he heard the confession after the opening ceremony. While lost in thought, the sound of a bottle rolling on the floor caught Lucas's attention. He recognized the familiar silhouette of Professor Saigon, stumbling along with a bottle in his hand. Lucas curiously wondered where his homeroom teacher was going in such a drunken state. Saigon walked unsteadily beneath the clock tower, his face flushed red, muttering incessantly in his drunken stupor. Sagan pushed the door to the academy classroom open, much to the annoyance of his colleagues. One teacher sighed. "It's old man Saigon again. Every single time he makes everyone wait. And then I'm just disappointed because I thought he would change after becoming the homeroom teacher for the Department of Martial Arts." They understood that after everything that happened in the past, it would be hard for Saigon to go back to his old self. Ignoring the judgmental gazes, Saigon nonchalantly sat in his chair and let out a long, tired yawn, a weary sigh. A blonde female teacher sitting opposite just watched her degenerate colleague in silence, her eyes filled with contemplation. The headmaster tapped his fingers on the table to settle the room and stated loudly, "Everyone is here. Let's begin the meeting." With a stern expression, he got straight to the main issue of the day, the meeting's agenda. This time, it was about the Beast Taming Festival at the Kamina Empire, a place frequently attacked by hordes of magical beasts. The ability to tame multiple monsters simultaneously is a mandatory requirement for every mage. Therefore, as per annual tradition, the freshmen of the Allen Magic Academy will have to participate in the Beast Taming Festival to hone their skills. The school has already prepared over 2,000 Tier 1 magical beasts for the competition, which will take place in 6 days. However, Professor Gregg spoke up with a look of pure contempt. "The martial arts department should just sit this one out. What do they know about magical beasts to participate? They won't be able to fight them anyway. Letting them in is just a waste of time." A loud slam of the desk echoed, cutting Gregg off. Saigon, with dark, intense eyes, declared firmly, "I do not agree." Gregg stammered, caught off guard, trying to defend himself by saying he was just thinking about the students' safety. But Professor Linda immediately spoke up in support of Saigon. Saigon is right. Since they are freshmen of this school, the martial arts department must also participate. Even Mina nodded in agreement, saying every student deserves to be treated with equal fairness. Gregg gritted his teeth in annoyance. He could not believe there were still teachers siding with Saigon, especially Linda. He silently wondered, does she still think that guy is an 8th tier master? Keep dreaming. Finally, Gregg begrudgingly accepted. If everyone is so insistent, then fine. Though I'm sure those kids will only know how to cry out of fear. The headmaster decisively gave the final verdict. It is decided the martial arts department will also participate. The meeting concluded, and the teachers left the room one by one in a tense atmosphere. A male teacher worriedly asked Linda if she was truly okay with this decision, since Greg's words weren't entirely baseless. The festival was indeed too brutal for martial artists. Linda smiled faintly and looked out. By the window, she recalled words someone had taught her long ago. A coward who doesn't have the will to overcome hardship has no right to call themselves a martial artist. That is precisely why Saigon decided that any student who refuses to participate in this upcoming tournament will be expelled from the martial arts department by his own hand. Saigon loudly announced that the beast-taming tournament will officially take place in 6 days. Immediately after this class, he demanded the whole class go outside for real combat training to ensure everyone possesses the strength needed to take down those magical beasts. Kai immediately asked, "Isn't that just an event to elect the class president? And since the class already has Tacy, is participating even necessary?" Before he could finish, a sharp sound rang out as Saigon punished the talkative student with a painful flick to the head. Looking at Kai with a huge bump on his head, Lucas could only sigh in frustration at his friend's knack for provoking the instructor. Lucas pondered the upcoming combat practice. He reminded himself to hold back. One small slip could accidentally send his friends to the afterlife. At the training ground, outside the academy, the atmosphere became incredibly lively as students began to spar. Lucas observed his surroundings and noticed that those who passed the entrance exam for the martial arts department all possessed non-trivial practical abilities, especially Tacy. Lucas judged Tacy's strength to be second only to his own. He silently acknowledged that Saigon truly had a keen eye for talent when he chose her as class president. Meanwhile, Lucas easily took down his opponent with a gentle flick of his hand without wasting any effort at all. The training session ended when Saigon staggered over with a bottle of alcohol to announce that time was up. Kai collapsed onto the grass, gasping for air, whining happily that the challenge had finally ended. Colin and Sap approached, saying they were heading to the cafeteria and promised to bring food back for Kai as previously agreed. Seeing this, Lucas curiously asked if Kai had just made another deal. Kai smugly explained that he hired Colin to buy food worth 2 points in exchange for 2 gold coins. Kai could get rich if he went into business. According to him, it was a win-win situation. Colin got some pocket money while he saved precious points for other things. Seeing Sap looking jealous for missing out on the deal, Kai quickly promised to let him handle the next order. Witnessing this scene, Lucas inwardly praised Colin's cleverness, knowing how to make money while maintaining good relationships with his roommates. Kai, arrogant and looking proud, asked Lucas if he thought he was smart, then excitedly told him to learn a thing or two from him without needing to pay tuition. He threw his arm around Lucas's shoulder and they left the training ground. To Kai's suggestion, Lucas just smiled and declined. "Thanks, but I'll pass on this deal. I can't keep up with that." Kai looked on with envy, thinking that since Lucas has a sister in the elite class, he definitely never has to worry about points or food. However, Kai was completely wrong. That night, under the crescent moon, Lucas stood tall over the carcass of a giant beast he had just defeated. He whispered to himself that even without Julia, he wouldn't have any trouble with food. After all, I'm enjoying the bounty of nature like this, aren't I? In the quiet night by the cliff, a large chunk of meat was roasting to a golden brown over the glowing fire, emitting a rich, savory aroma. Lucas sat alone by the campfire, deep in thought. If it weren't for needing to stay with Julia, he could have used even dinner time to train more. But the image of Mina intentionally approaching his sister during the afternoon meal flashed back, making him uneasy. Lucas narrowed his eyes coldly, promising himself he would never let his guard down, and if she truly had ill intentions, he would definitely make her regret it. Suddenly, a white tail wagging caught Lucas's attention. Uru was staring intensely at the roasted meat with sparkling eyes and drooling mouth. Lucas smiled, held out the meat, and said, "Here, eat up, Uru. You're the luckiest." Having such a devoted master, looking at the happy expression of the wolf, he thought to himself that Uru was actually quite cute, and having a beast minion to fetch, free food wasn't bad at all. But as soon as Uru finished eating, Lucas stood up and cracked his knuckles menacingly. "That's right. After eating, stay and train with me. I promise not to hurt you. Being a subordinate is hard. You can't even swallow the meat you get from the boss." At the same time, at the Ryan mansion, Lady Catherine sat quietly in the garden under the moonlight with a worried look. Hearing slow footsteps approaching, she remained motionless in the silent space. Mr. Hosian walked up, placed a hand on his wife's shoulder, and asked kindly, "Catherine, are you worrying about the kids again?" Catherine hung her head sadly and replied, "Yes, I can't hide anything from you." Mr. Hosian looked at Catherine tenderly and mused, "By now, the children must have started their lessons. If you miss them that much, why don't we go visit?" Seeing his wife still tearing up from missing their children, he gently comforted her, saying he had business passing through Town anyway and would take her along. Catherine burst into happiness and exclaimed, "Thank you so much, I'm so happy I'll get to see them again." Meanwhile, at Count Green's mansion, a bizarre ceremony was taking place in a gloomy atmosphere. Masked figures respectfully welcomed the mysterious woman who had just appeared. She held up her hand with violet black nails, introducing a new drug called Jade Dream. To prove it, she nonchalantly wounded herself so her red blood dripped into the wine glasses, calling it the finishing touch for everyone to enjoy the fun to the fullest. The blue-haired woman turned her back, revealing a glowing, eerie sigil, and declared, "Then, let today's game begin." The mysterious figures began whispering about an 11-year-old girl who had wiped out the Black Wind Gang. After the ceremony, the blue-haired woman lay beside Jessica and remarked, "Julia has received a 7th-level blessing." So Catherine's child inherited the talent of the Miranda clan. However, she smiled with contempt and asserted, "7th level? And you want to take down a number 4? You're daydreaming." She continued to pour venomous words into Jessica's ear, mocking that no matter how much her child struggled, she would never achieve the desired results. With eyes full of evil, she asked bluntly, "You want to kill Catherine and her daughter to become the Countess, right?" Jessica admitted without hesitation, "That's right. What should I do?" The blue-haired woman smiled with satisfaction, touched a glowing magic circle, and whispered to herself that the moment a budding flower withers is truly a beautiful sight. The next morning, combat training continued amidst the exhausted students. While Tacy loudly announced the training plan, the group of students, "The person below me is whining again. No wonder my whole body aches so much. I was in so much pain last night I couldn't even sleep. Instructor Saigon is a total demon." Watching the scene, Tacy was secretly surprised by how exhausted everyone was, while Lucas realized that he and his roommates were still perfectly fine. He quietly wondered if it was because their bodies were more resilient than the others. Kai immediately puffed out his chest with smug satisfaction, convinced it was because he was just too badass. If he wasn't the strongest in the class, who was? Lucas could only offer a secret smile because he knew full well that his group's alertness was actually due to the calming incense he had used since the night before. Observing from afar, Saigon privately praised the physical stamina of Lucas's group, believing that with this foundation, they could withstand tougher training and become promising martial artists. Suddenly, Kai shouted excitedly, "Let's go!" Then lunged at Lucas to start their sparring session. Kai unleashed a barrage of lightning-fast punches, but Lucas calmly watched and easily neutralized them. To avoid revealing too much of his true power, Lucas silently activated a level 5 limiter to keep his strength to a minimum. The two engaged in a dramatic exchange of techniques. Kai wore an excited grin at his opponent's toughness and admitted, "Not bad." If Kai knew Lucas was holding back, he would be shocked. Lucas slightly curled his lips in response. Same here. However, right in the middle of the match, Lucas's sharp instincts made him suddenly freeze, sensing a strange presence quietly watching him from afar. He squinted toward the ancient tree at the edge of the training ground, where an elderly man with a long white beard was sitting in mysterious meditation, tracking his every move. Seeing Lucas lose focus, Kai curiously looked over and wondered, "That old man over there?" Kai lunged forward and shouted, "Too sloppy! Take this!" But Lucas quickly sidestepped, causing Kai to lose his momentum and fall flat on his face. Kai frustratingly got back up, his eyes burning with determination. "Don't look away! Today we spar until we find a winner." Lucas just calmly replied, "Sure, have it your way." Then he got back into his defensive stance. From a distance, Elder Otani gave a mysterious smile and silently walked away. A girl approached and asked if she should take him back to the library, but Otani refused, preferring to walk back alone at his own pace. In his heart, he couldn't help but marvel at Lucas, an intriguing young man who was hiding his true strength so well that even someone as experienced as him couldn't see through it. He told himself he would definitely remember the name Lucas. A few hours later, when training ended, Instructor Saigon gathered the class to teach them massage techniques, stressing that they needed to memorize them well because they were incredibly important. The effect of the massage was truly amazing, helping every student wash away all their muscle fatigue in an instant. Lucas thought to himself, thanks to this, his classmates would quickly forget that only his group of 4 was still full of energy since the early morning. After school, he decided to go buy the necessary materials to build a new training ground for himself. Lucas headed to the Allen Academy Magic Supply Store, a place so lavish and vast it was like a shopping mall, filled with countless rare items that ordinary people would never have the chance to touch. Just like everywhere else in the academy, all payments here had to be made with credits. Looking at the 30-credit price tag for a high-end training dummy, Lucas inwardly complained that everything was too expensive for his budget. He roughly calculated that he might have to spend up to 100 credits per month for his training needs. Even though he knew Julia had plenty of credits, Lucas told himself he couldn't just rely on his younger sister forever, as it would be a shame if the kid spent all her allowance on food. Finally, he decided to only buy magic potions for his bath today. He would wait until next time to trade the materials stored in Uru's cave for more credits. On the other side of the room, a girl was dozing off next to stacks of books and a cold cup of coffee. Lucas placed a heavy sack on the counter, casually held out his card, and said in a clear voice, "Wrap all of this up for me, no need to check the price." After checking, she'd announced, "Let's see, that's 5 credits total." As soon as Lucas swiped his card, the magic orb instantly displayed the number 5 in a bright glow. The clerk was secretly stunned when she looked at his uniform. It was the martial arts department uniform. Students in this department only start with 10 credits, yet he dared to use half of them in a single go. After confirming the payment was successful, Lucas happily took the large sack and didn't forget to send his thanks. "Thank you so much." Seeing him turn to leave, the clerk still couldn't help but worry and reminded him, "Hey, buying that much? Aren't you afraid of wasting your money? Don't come crying later." Lucas looked back with a confident smile. "I actually feel like this isn't enough, so I'll be back to buy more later." This attitude made her frustrated, and she thought to herself, the martial arts department doesn't even have a pharmacy class. What is he planning to do with all that stuff? Buying things like this, he's definitely some nobleman. She sighed in annoyance while watching Lucas's back. "Honestly, that's why I hate nobles." That night in his secret cave, Lucas was enjoying a relaxing soak in a steaming hot bath. He casually dropped the medicinal herbs he had just bought into the water. Lucas thought to himself, even when mixed into bath water, the medicinal effects wouldn't be lost. It would be a total waste to just throw them away. Looking at the medicinal water, he chuckled to himself, "But I can't exactly make anyone drink bath water." Lucas stepped out of the medicinal bath feeling refreshed and told himself, that feels great. Now should I go get some materials to trade for more credits?" To avoid drawing too much attention, he decided to only bring along common grade 2 materials instead of anything too rare. Suddenly, a strange noise from behind made Lucas jump and turn around. He was stunned to see Uru casually licking the bathwater in the tub until it was clean. Lucas panicked and shouted, "Uru, what the hell are you doing? Did you drink all the bathwater I just soaked in?" Facing the wolf's guilty look, Lucas could only sigh helplessly. However, he soon realized this wasn't bad, as the medicinal water would also help Uru's body become stronger. The gluttonous wolf didn't forget to ask, "Thanks, master, but I'm still hungry. Could I have a piece of beef?" Lucas smiled and playfully scolded, "What a glutton." But at least this solved the problem of wasting the medicinal water. He began to plan in secret to transport these materials to trade for credits during off-peak hours over the next 3 days to avoid suspicion. Late at night, as Lucas was carrying the heavy equipment he bought from the store toward the dormitory, Mina suddenly appeared from behind and offered to help with magic. "That looks heavy. Let me use magic to move it for you." Lucas quickly refused. "It's fine, I'm okay, I can carry it myself." Lucas thought to himself it was lucky that she assumed this batch of materials was sent by his family, which helped him keep things hidden. "I've been hitting the Monster Mountain range pretty often lately. Time flies, and the monster taming tournament is almost here. In the training yard, Master Saigon is absolutely losing his mind. Do you kids even have an ounce of drive?" he roared. "The tournament is tomorrow. Don't get lazy just because you hate training. If you don't want to do this, get the hell home." He kept pointing out fatal flaws in everyone's technique, from how they planted their feet to Kai's constant stumbling. "With moves like that, you couldn't even catch a bird, let alone fight a monster." Kai immediately protested, full of wounded pride. "I don't accept that. I actually beat Lucas, Sap, and Colin already." But before he could even finish, his master took him down with a single flick to the forehead. Saigon turned to the other 3. "Did you 3 seriously lose to this guy?" Whether it was because they didn't want to offend a noble or just wanted to avoid trouble, all three nodded. Sagan held his head in frustration. Those troublesome nobles really were a pain. Useless! To test their actual strength, he ordered Tacy to spar with Kai. Kai eagerly got into stance, confidently declaring he wouldn't hold back and would prove with his strength that he was the most worthy to be class representative. Tacy stepped into a defensive stance, offering a small, humble smile. Please go easy on me. Kai immediately lunged forward with incredible speed, screaming, Eat this! But Tacy's agility far exceeded his expectations, leaving Kai stunned. Too fast. Before he could even recover, Tacy closed in, with movements that were graceful yet deadly, ending the fight decisively. Kai was sent flying back, slamming into the fence in agony. The surrounding students couldn't help but whisper in shock. Did Kai actually lose? He's that huge, and he still got wrecked? Watching this, Lucas finally understood why Master Saigon chose Tacy as the class rep. Saigon looked at them with an icy, high-pressure gaze. Monsters won't show you any mercy. Everyone, give it your all. Lucas realized Kai's mistake was focusing so much on attacking that he left his defense wide open, giving Tacy the opening to finish it. Tacy kindly walked over to check on him. Are you okay? But Kai just sat there in stunned silence. Saigon spoke up loudly. Listen up. Tomorrow, each of you is required to tame at least one monster. Saigon's next threat sent a chill down everyone's spine. If you can't, you'll be expelled from the martial arts department immediately. Kai trembled in fear while the sloppy professor turned his back and walked away, ordering the whole class to keep training until dark. Seeing Kai sitting there dazed, Lucas approached him, pointing out that his defense was left completely wide open. If you fix that habit and attack the enemy's weak spot, you'll be fine. But Kai suddenly turned beet red and shouted a shocking truth. No, that's not it. I think I've fallen for Tacy. Lucas froze at this unexpected confession. Kai dreamily recounted that it was the first time in his life he'd been kicked around by a girl, and Tacy's moves looked so cool. He even excitedly bragged that he'd already thought of names for their future kids. Lucas was left speechless, silently wondering if this guy was a masochist? Does Kai only feel alive when he's getting beaten up? The next day, the taming tournament officially took place in a massive arena. The speakers blared, telling the students to get ready to head inside. Standing before the grandeur of the arena, Kai started shaking when he heard the roars of monsters echoing from below. So loud. How many are down there anyway? Just thinking about those monsters roaring right under his feet was terrifying. At the same time, the students from the magic department standing above couldn't stop mocking them. The martial arts department is actually trying to compete? Are you here to be monster bait? Suddenly, Saigon appeared from behind with such a murderous aura that the arrogant group fell silent immediately. He coldly shut them down. If you have time to think about useless things, try shoving the tournament rules into your brains. The magic students panicked and scrambled away. Lucas was quite surprised to see Master Saigon standing up for his students. However, Kai was still trembling with anxiety before the life-or-death moment. To calm his friend down, Lucas gently advised, just imagine they're Master Saigon and go all out. What are you worried about? Imagining himself punching the daylights out of a super-weak version of Saigon, Kai suddenly smiled broadly. That's genius. I'm feeling fired up now. Seeing his friend's excitement, Lucas could only play along. You know those little brats can hear everything, right? Right after that, Lucas started giving tactical advice. That was actually practical for Kai. Remember what we talked about yesterday? Low-level monsters can't break your defense, so if you focus on guarding, you will definitely win. Kai confidently declared he wouldn't repeat yesterday's mistake, making even Saigon silently acknowledge that Lucas was truly a guy who could give quality advice. On the arena's big screen, the judge loudly announced the tournament rules. Those who tamed 10 monsters would receive a perfect score, and points would be deducted for anyone who accidentally killed them. The time limit was 10 minutes. If you got hurt, shout loudly for the teachers standing outside the arena. Right after that, Julia stepped out with confidence. She was one of the first students to enter the challenge zone. Stepping through the magic gate, Julia was amazed to realize she was standing in a vast barrier space. Is this a barrier dimension? So that's how it is. I was wondering how 50 monsters could fit inside such a small building. From the shadows, 2 giant monster bears with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth suddenly appeared. Instead of being afraid, Julia gave a bright smile and casually commented, "These are kind of cute. Let's catch them." She raised her staff, activated a glowing purple magic circle, and unleashed Thunder Zing. Powerful bursts of lightning exploded, engulfing the monsters, causing them to scream in pain. According to the rules, the monsters in the tournament were coated in a special magical potion, so when tamed, a thick cloud of purple smoke would rise from their bodies. Outside the barrier, the teachers used magic circles to sense the situation inside, helping them track exactly how many monsters each student had tamed for a fair score. The judge standing outside couldn't help but sweat when he saw the signal from Zone 5. Is the counter broken? Why did she finish so fast? The announcement had echoed throughout the arena. Zone 5, mission complete. The exam is over. Will the next contestants please prepare? Julia stepped out of the barrier, relaxed, to the astonishment of everyone. The blonde female teacher showered the girl with praise. Finished in just 3 minutes? That is an incredible result. Credible. Julia politely thanked them, then quickly asked about her brother's situation. Upon learning that the martial arts students in Area 10 would be the last to compete, she decided to go grab a snack while waiting. However, behind the dark gate, a mysterious shadow was silently watching Julia's every step with eyes full of calculation. She silently wondered if this teenage martial artist could create a shocking miracle like he did at the opening ceremony. 2 hours passed, and the atmosphere in the arena turned gloomy as contestants stepped out one by one. It seemed this exam was quite difficult. Kai also began to tremble, doubting their ability to remain in the martial arts department amidst the intensity of the competition. Lucas reassured his friend, "Don't worry. In terms of raw martial arts strength, we're not inferior to those mages at all." Master Saigon suddenly spoke up, shattering his students' self-doubt. "Why be so insecure? If you can't even handle a level 1 magic beast, you might as well pack your bags." He emphasized that martial artists are always superior to low-level mages in both physique and close-quarters combat, and demanded that the whole class have more self-confidence. This rare encouragement shocked Kai and Colin, as Master Saigon was known for being a grumpy man. Just then, Tacy returned after having secretly scouted the situation. She reported that most of the other contestants were just exhausted from overusing magic, not because they were in actual danger. Tacy also gathered important information that the magic beast's movement range had been limited by a barrier to ensure safety. She advised that if anyone encountered an opponent too strong, they could absolutely retreat to find an easier target, and as long as they managed their stamina well, they were sure to score. Running is the best tactic, it's standard procedure. Tacy's enthusiastic sharing made the whole class incredibly excited, and they chanted the name of their amazing class leader in unison. Master Saigon was also secretly pleased that he had placed his trust in the right person by choosing her as their guide. However, a mocking smile and a voice full of contempt suddenly rang out. Well, no wonder I kept seeing someone sneaking around eavesdropping. So it turns out to be people from the martial arts department." Rex appeared with an arrogant look. He claimed that because they were incompetent, Saigon and his students had to resort to cowardly eavesdropping tricks to earn points. Rex coldly announced that it was now the martial arts department's turn to prepare to enter the arena, and he didn't forget to threaten that if they didn't do well, the martial arts department would soon be wiped off the map of the academy, and in reality, a place like this should never have been established in the first place. Watching Rex's back as he walked away with a mocking laugh, Lucas's eyes darkened with killing intent. He reminded him of those who used to bully him, in his past life those who always looked down on others just because of their own status. Lucas stepped forward decisively. He asked to confirm his priority. "After this, I will be the one entering the field. First, because I ranked number 1 at the opening ceremony, right?" Seeing the serious expression and the pressure radiating from his student, Saigon suggested letting someone else take his place if he felt worried. Lucas's eyes suddenly glowed with a powerful golden light. He coldly refused the offer. "No need to swap. Just let me go in and take care of that whole lot." He told himself he would definitely achieve excellent results, to put those who dared to look down on the martial arts department in their place. Seeing his confidence, Kai and Sap were also fired up and shouted, "That's right! Let's show them our true power!" Master Saigon, standing behind, couldn't help but be surprised to see his students' attitude change so drastically. Kai didn't forget to remind everyone, "Don't forget what," class leader Tacy said, making Lucas speechless at how simple his roommates were. 10 minutes later, at competition area 10, Lucas rushed into the thick fog. Perfect. Dodging these traps gives me plenty of room to show off without anyone knowing. When a magic beast acknowledges its master, their souls connect, allowing that person to temporarily use their powers. Uru was busy chewing on a bone and asked blankly, "Master, you're already that strong. Why bother using my strength and tire yourself out?" Lucas didn't answer but immediately activated his power. A giant wolf shadow covered his legs, enhancing his speed and explosive force. Using brute force to suppress these low-level magic beasts was already too easy. The surrounding magic beasts panicked and fled from the appearance of a high-level predator. However, instead of attacking directly, Lucas realized that driving the magic beasts into a psychological dead end to crush their will to fight would be much more effective. The presence of a high-level magic beast's spirit image like Uru easily made the weaker ones tremble in fear. Lucas felt satisfied seeing the magic owl quickly surrender, but he also reminded himself to be careful not to let the magic potion smoke leak out of the barrier too early before he made every beast in the arena submit. Meanwhile, outside the arena, the electronic scoreboard still displayed a round 0 next to Lucas Rion's name, even though half the competition time had passed. Witnessing those poor results, Rex didn't miss the opportunity to make a mocking comment. Not scoring a single point means he can't even defeat the lowest-level magic beasts. This is the massive, world-apart difference between a martial artist and a mage. These words made Julia extremely angry. She screamed to defend her brother, "Don't you dare mock my brother! He might not be able to use magic, but he is truly amazing." Rex just snorted coldly, full of disdain. He thought the girl had lost her ability to judge, just like Lena, and asserted that the actual results on the scoreboard would say it all. But just as Rex finished his sentence, the loudspeaker suddenly blared Lucas. "Ryan, 1 point!" His group of friends cheered with joy because at least Lucas had scored points to stay in the martial arts department. Rex kept his smug face, thinking that 1 point was nothing when the best student in his class had already reached 5 points. But his smile soon faded when the number on the scoreboard kept jumping, up to 2, 3, 4, and then stopped at 5. Rex was so shocked he broke into a cold sweat. He couldn't believe that a piece of trash martial artist could achieve a score equal to his class's highest record. Rex's face right now must look hilarious, folks. Inside the barrier, Lucas stood casually on the head of a giant snake that had been completely subdued. He silently calculated that after he had cleared the area and terrified the beasts, his classmates could now easily score, without encountering any obstacles. Now was the time for Lucas to end his show and leave. He dashed off like a bolt of lightning, successively taking down targets 6, 7, and 8 in just a few short seconds. Lucas continued to score his 9th point by defeating a devil bat right in midair. The owl from earlier was unlucky enough to fall into Lucas's sights one more time. It cried silently as it saw the Reaper suddenly return with a 10th finishing blow. The owl from earlier was unlucky enough to fall into Lucas's crosshairs once again. It couldn't even make a sound as it watched the Grim Reaper return for a 10th finishing blow. Lucas officially completed the exam, leaving Greg frozen in absolute shock. A loud, booming voice echoed throughout the arena. "Lucas Rian, a perfect score of 10. Julia gazed up at the screen, her eyes sparkling with pride as she cheered. Her brother was the best, no one could top him. Lucas walked out of the arena amidst the murmurs of the stunned crowd. A martial arts student getting a perfect score? Are you kidding me? Julia excitedly rushed over and hugged her brother. "I knew you'd be fine, big brother." While Lucas gently patted his sister's head, Greg still couldn't accept the reality of it. He roared in anger, "No! There's no way a martial arts freshman could make 10 magical beasts surrender like that. Saigon, you definitely used a body double or some kind of trick. Is that so?" The judge standing nearby immediately spoke up, shutting Greg down. "Are you implying that I'm taking bribes and covering up cheating?" Greg paled, realizing he'd just offended someone in a position of power. He trembled with regret. Damn it, I completely forgot the judge was right there. Making enemies with people like this is a nightmare. He hurriedly waved his hands to make excuses, claiming he was only suspicious because Lucas had destroyed a practice dummy during the entrance exam. The judge decisively made a ruling. "Then let's go and inspect the inside of the barrier." Saigon looked annoyed. The fact that the martial arts department was being questioned just for achieving a perfect score was insulting. Lucas remained calm and replied, "Let them be. Just let them do whatever they want." 10 minutes later, inside the barrier, the magic owl slowly opened its eyes as the magical gate began to open. Seeing the exit and realizing the terrifying powerhouse from before was gone, it immediately shouted to its companions, "We're out! That scary guy is gone! Run for it, everyone!" Just as the beasts were about to escape, the judges quickly used their staffs to activate glowing gold magic circles. Chains of light tightened around the owl in midair, leaving it unable to move. The judges noted that the beasts seemed quite agitated, but not to the point where the competition site needed to be changed. One judge still couldn't help but wonder if Lucas had truly earned his score legitimately. The head judge observed pensively and silently concluded, "I can't find any evidence, but something definitely happened to these beasts." The judges decided to let the tournament continue while the 10 beasts Lucas just faced would be taken away for a detailed check. Soon after, the loudspeaker boomed across the arena. No issues were found with the inspection results. "Would the next contestant please prepare?" Lucas stood with his arms crossed, looking perfectly calm. He thought to himself that even though they didn't find any faults, they clearly still didn't truly believe in his ability. Looking toward Tacy, Lucas smirked slightly. Interesting, but the real surprise is just beginning. When it was her turn, Tacy decisively charged into the arena with intense determination. She told herself that she absolutely could not lose to Lucas. The moment she entered the barrier, she quickly mapped out a strategy. If she couldn't force her opponent to surrender within 30 seconds, she would immediately switch targets to save time. However, the beast suddenly froze, its eyes bulging in terror the moment it saw Tacy. It trembled. Realizing that the aura and scent on this girl were exactly like the monster that had tormented its friends earlier, making it panic and wonder if that terrifying person was still lurking nearby. Seizing the opportunity, Tacy threw an incredibly powerful punch, forcing the Grade 3 Shadow Wolf to whimper and immediately bow in submission. She couldn't help but be stunned. A Grade 3 wolf down this fast? Something feels off, doesn't it? Looking at her own hand, Tacy's eyes suddenly lit up with confidence. She wondered if the martial arts students weren't actually as weak as everyone thought. With her momentum building, Tacy consecutively took down a giant lizard and then an aggressive wild boar, causing the scoreboard to jump repeatedly. High up in the stands, Kai cheered enthusiastically for his goddess. Meanwhile, Master Saigon kept a pensive expression, watching Tacy's score climb steadily from 3, 4 to 5 points. She unleashed powerful punches, conquering her 6th and then 7th targets in the blink of an eye. Shortly after, she finished off her 10th target, officially completing the exam with a perfect score. The entire arena exploded in absolute astonishment. Another perfect 10? And Tacy's completion time was even faster than Lucas's. It left Kai cheering with excitement, witnessing this unbelievable scene. The judges fell into a state of confusion once again. What is going on? Another technical glitch? They hurriedly ordered the group of beasts to be taken away for a technical inspection immediately. Amidst the murmurs, Tacy stood proudly, looking toward Lucas with a radiant smile. She silently confirmed that, just as Lucas said, these beasts weren't as scary as she thought, and martial artists were definitely not weaker than mages. The third match ended in a flash when a beast was knocked back by a powerful blast of force. Antosap wore a bright smile, easily adding his name to the list of those with a perfect 10 score. The whole martial arts department is hacking the game, guys! Shortly after, in the fourth match, Colin unleashed a lightning-fast kick to take down a giant ape, securing another perfect 10 for the department. By the fifth match, Kai poured all his strength into his fist, making the saber-toothed tiger so terrified it actually shed tears before completely surrendering. Kai stood arrogantly over the defeated beast, flashing a smug, contemptuous gesture as he received the notification for a perfect score on the leaderboard. Martial arts students like Julia, Lucas and Tacy kept occupying the top positions, creating a real earthquake that left the entire academy stunned. Witnessing a performance that far exceeded all expectations for the martial arts department, Segan smiled faintly, feeling incredibly satisfied. He quietly walked into a secluded corner and took a long, refreshing gulp of wine to celebrate his students' victory. After putting the beasts in cages for a thorough check, the judges were shocked to confirm that there were absolutely no abnormalities with the barrier or the beasts' physical conditions. Facing questions about the martial arts department's outstanding results, they speculated that the beasts might have been terrified by the magical attacks from the previous rounds. It was the high-pressure, close-quarters combat style of the martial artists that pushed the beast's fear to the absolute limit in the very first time this department had participated in the tournament. The long-bearded dean pensively made a final decision. I see. Then from next year on, let the martial arts department compete first. As for this year's results, they will remain as they are. This announcement shocked Greg so much he blurted out, "What? No!" He couldn't accept that the martial arts department could surpass the magic classes to stand equally with the elite, all under the cold, sharp gaze of the dean as he asked, "That's exactly how it is. Do you have any objections?" Rex could only stammer, "No, I have no objections, sir." However, he still sulked, believing that the martial arts department only ranked first due to luck, not actual strength. Truthfully, Dean Otani coldly dismissed the concern. Luck is also a form of talent, and since this isn't the students' fault, we cannot invalidate their results. The other professors agreed that the dean was absolutely right. Greg could only grit his teeth in obedience before storming off in a rage. Watching Professor Saigon's retreating back, he brewed a bitter desire for revenge. "Saigon, I will remember this well." Over at the Magic Beast Pens, a high-ranking official approached Dean Otani and asked with grave concern, "This is a survival issue for the Department of Martial Arts. As a ninth-grade martial artist, surely you have realized the real reason, haven't you?" The dean replied contemplatively, "It's not convenient to talk about, but rest assured the Academy is safe. There's no harm done." Looking toward the Academy Tower, he silently resolved to keep the secret of Lucas's true strength, just as the young boy wished. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Kai was grinning triumphantly about getting a perfect score. "I can't believe it. I have to tell my dad immediately." He excitedly thought that taming magic beasts wasn't nearly as hard as the rumors suggested, and believed the whole group had improved leaps and bounds since the entrance exam. Lucas sighed in relief that no one suspected him, smiling along with them. That's all thanks to Professor Saigon's special training. Kai sat down, excitedly asking the group, "Hey guys, what are you going to use your 20 bonus points for? Ranking first place?" Colin and Sap planned to save the points for emergencies or to treat everyone to a meal, but Kai cut them off immediately. Points are for buying high-end gear. Practical training is the only truth. Hearing the phrase practical training, Lucas couldn't help but wonder. It referred to the challenge at Allen Tower, a unique training site of the Magic Academy. Inside the tower lies an illusionary world filled with countless species, from magic beasts and beastkin to giants. Because everything is just an illusion, the participants won't lose their lives. It's a perfect opportunity to learn how to fight various opponents and hone real combat strength. However, Colin worried that only 100 freshmen are allowed into the tower, and since the 12 elite class students definitely have their spots, the chance for them to snatch the remaining positions is very slim. Kai confidently put his arm around Lucas, insisting that participants are usually selected based on the annual taming competition rankings. So since the whole group got perfect scores, they would definitely be on the list. Right after that, Colin and Sap excitedly rushed off to the supply store to buy training gear. Watching the backs of his two friends hurrying away, Lucas whispered to himself, seeing them rush off to train, their thirst for power really is intense. Lucas told himself that helping everyone secretly reach a perfect score in the competition was a completely correct decision. While lost in thought, Kai rushed over to hug him, begging him to go to the supply store too. Lucas firmly refused because he had a more important task to do. He took out a necklace with a finely carved, sharp beast fang. This was the item Professor Saigon had given him earlier. Lucas narrowed his eyes, observing the strange object, silently resolving to uncover the real secret behind the gift from this disheveled professor. A precious reward that only the 3 people who achieved a perfect score in the tournament had the chance to receive. He clicked his tongue in regret when thinking about the ranking order. If only I had ranked lower, this thing would have been mine already. Seeing Kai looking at him, Lucas casually put the item away and smiled. My only strength is just dumb luck. Kai sighed, then said, Goodbye. Never mind, I'm heading to the supply store to catch up with Anto and the others. Lucas nodded in reply. Yeah, see you later. News about Martial Arts Department achieving perfect scores was proudly displayed on the main bulletin board, causing the whole academy to erupt in shock and jealousy. Lila, A female student from the magic department and a pupil of Professor Greg was so angry that she kicked the wall hard, grinding her teeth and yelling in frustration. We were supposed to achieve excellent results for 3 consecutive years and become the top class after the elite course. With a hateful look, Lila couldn't accept that the hard work her father put in for 10 years was being ruined by a bunch of martial artists. Lila's anger flared even more when she realized the martial arts department had snatched 20 precious spots to enter Allen Tower. A male student standing next to her chimed in full of rage. The spots for the tower should belong to mages. Those martial artists stole them. Although someone mentioned that even the teachers at the Magic Beast base had confirmed the martial arts department didn't cheat, that only made the magic students even more heated. Another student from Professor Greg's faction coldly asserted, the martial arts department obviously bribed the teachers at the Magic Beast base. He reasoned that this was perfectly possible because the son of the wealthy Taro family in the martial arts department could easily use money to buy anything. Andre pushed up his glasses, his eyes flashing with calculation, as he revealed that he had seen 2 of the Taro family's lackeys just wipe out the final training supplies at the school's store. Andre feared that when the martial arts department received their 20 bonus points tomorrow, the precious materials would continue to be snatched up by them. Lila coldly gripped her magic staff, wickedly mentioning how the meridians of martial artists are thinner than glass. Laughing cruelly, she demanded they go break the arms and legs of those martial artists to teach them a lesson. That very afternoon, they planned to take down the students of the martial arts department. The first 2 victims they ambushed were Anto and Decio. Decio screamed, questioning why they were being attacked so suddenly. Anto was now severely injured with a deep slash on his back, groaning in pain. Decio panicked, realizing there was poison on the wound and that they needed to get their friend treated immediately. But the mages from the magic class didn't let up. They mocked them. If you want points, we'll gift them to you. Immediately, Lila activated a magic circle, launching a brutal attack aimed straight at the 2, who were already injured. Heart-wrenching screams echoed out as Decio and Anto were tormented by ghostly vines and ice until they were no longer able to resist. Lila stood watching with a blank face, coldly declaring, "Shut up. I don't need your points." Anto trembled, asking why they were treating them so cruelly, like this. She coldly stated that her request was actually very simple. Lila held a vial in her hand, her face twisting into something as terrifying as a demon. She ordered, "Crawl back and humiliate the martial arts department. Tell everyone you guys are just trash." A few hours later, when it was pitch black, other students from the martial arts department carried lanterns, frantically searching for their comrades. They kept calling for Decio and Anto in vain amidst the silent night. Kai wondered why Lucas seemed so panicked, since it was normally just everyday stuff for the guys to work late. But Lucas knew the situation today was completely different, as this was the first time he had smelled such a strong scent of blood on this path. As soon as he sensed the traces, Lucas immediately dashed off, leaving Kai bewildered. While chasing him, Kai complained about Lucas running off suddenly, but he soon froze in his tracks when he caught sight of a bloodied hand reaching out from the bushes. The horrific scene unfolded before their eyes as their 2 classmates lay motionless in a pool of blood. Kai screamed in shock, "Who on earth did this?" "Lucas." He immediately drops to his knees to check the victim's conditions. His injured friend, Toy, reveals that the one behind this is Lila from Greg's class, and she ruthlessly severed their meridians. Seeing his comrades harmed, a dark, chilling killing intent erupts, completely shrouding Lucas. Lucas quickly reassures them. They're still alive, just knocked out. He immediately delegates, "Tasks! I'll stop the bleeding. Kai, go get some medicine." As soon as Kai leaves, Lucas channels his spiritual power into his hands to perform emergency first aid, to prevent the wounds from worsening. Upon touching their bodies, Lucas is shocked to realize the brutality of the cursed injuries, with every single bone crushed into tiny pieces. This is clearly the bone-crushing technique, a method often used by black market assassins. He clenches his fists, veins bulging with fury as he thinks to himself, "To inflict such a cruel technique on both of them, I will destroy you all. This isn't just bullying, this is a straight-up attempted murder." Below him, his injured friend moans in delirium, "Mom, Dad, it hurts so much." Lucas looks at his suffering friend and firmly promises, "Don't worry, I'll take care of them and get revenge for you." In the dark forest, Lucas stays back to care for them. until Kai returns with Tacy. Seeing the horrific scene, Tacy gasps, Anto and Decio were attacked? Kai explains that he happened to run into Tacy on the way to get medicine. Lucas reports the situation. Their lives aren't in danger, but they'll need a few days of rest. Kai hands the medicine bag to Lucas, silently thanking him for the timely first aid, then grits his teeth in rage. Damn it, I will never forgive those bastards. Kai decides, tomorrow I'm going to the student council. However, Tacy is pessimistic, believing the teachers are turning a blind eye, so the student council won't care about the martial arts department's issues. Lucas bluntly interrupts, I don't care. His terrifying expression leaves Tacy stunned. A pitch-black killing intent flares up, enveloping Lucas's entire body, making him look like a completely different person compared to his usual gentle self. Lucas grinds his teeth with hatred, silently making a resolution, I will settle this score no matter what it takes. At the student council room, the atmosphere turns tense as Theo listens to the request from Lucas's group. He smirks and asks, I see, you're trying to pick a fight with Greg's class? Lucas firmly asserts, if we win, I demand a formal apology from the people who attacked the 2 martial arts students. In return, Lucas is ready to bet his S-rank reward intended for Greg's class if they lose. However, Theo wears a sinister smile and claims there's absolutely no evidence showing that students from Greg's class were the culprits. Then he reaches out to grab the Beast Fang necklace and asks if this is the S-rank reward he mentioned. What's wrong? Suddenly, Theo lets go, dropping the necklace to the floor to everyone's shock. He nonchalantly offers a fake apology. Oops, my hand slipped. Theo continues with mocking contempt. For something as serious as a duel, don't you think using something so cheap to place a bet is inappropriate? Seeing Theo's insulting behavior, Kai grits his teeth, ready to lash out. But Lucas reaches out to stop him. Lucas stares directly at the student council president and asks, then what would be considered appropriate? Theo pretends to ponder for a moment before slowly suggesting that they should choose something unique and symbolic of this school. He offers a calculated smile and makes a shocking proposal. The losing side will forever lose the right to enter the Allen Tower for training. Despite Kai and Tacy's shock, Lucas remains terrifyingly calm. He decisively accepts this risky challenge. You're on. The announcement of the duel between the martial arts department and Greg's class is quickly posted on the bulletin board, drawing the attention of every student in the school to the event taking place in 2 days. News of the match gives the freshmen who were dissatisfied with the martial arts department a chance to gloat. They constantly cheer for Greg's class, and even that old man Greg shamelessly praises the 3 who attacked Anto's group right in front of everyone. In contrast to the noise, Teacher Saigon offers no comments. He just silently increases the intensity of real combat training for his students. Under the heavy pressure on the training grounds, Lucas trains quietly with eyes burning with resentment. He is ready to claim justice for his fallen comrades. And then, the day of the duel finally arrives. The atmosphere at the arena is hotter than ever. Under the gaze of thousands of spectators waiting for a good show, cheers erupt throughout the stands. Those 3 over there are fighting for the martial arts department. Let's support them with everything we've got. Standing opposite Lucas's group, Lila wears a smug smile and continues her condescending mockery. With so many people watching like this, if you apologize right now, I might consider forgiving you. Lucas keeps his terrifyingly calm expression. He looks straight at her and coldly replies, we don't know how this match will end yet. When the referee orders both sides to take their positions, Kai bravely steps forward with a glowing short sword in his hand. He decisively declares, let's end this quickly. His opponent is a male student wearing glasses and holding a staff. He nonchalantly adjusts his glasses and replies arrogantly, be my guest. The match officially begins. The magic student activates a massive glowing magic circle under his feet and shouts, Blizzard. Razor-sharp ice shards like a downpour of destruction fly straight at Kai, but he leaves everyone stunned as he uses extreme speed to deflect every attack in the blink of an eye. The bespectacled mage turns pale, sweating profusely in shock. What? He deflected everything? Amidst the shattered ice, fading away, Kai stands tall with a look of disdain and challenges. Is that all you've got? So weak. Kai swings his sword, batting away the sharp ice fragments, and snorts coldly. Boy, that's all you have. Really? However, the bespectacled mage, Andre, keeps his smug smile, thinking to himself, "Took the bait, you rookie. Pure muscle really is easy to fool." Andre immediately activates the imprisonment prison magic. Sharp ice pillars suddenly erupt from the ground, locking Kai's feet in place. He adjusts his glasses arrogantly. "Just lie there and die, you half-baked aristocrat." Andre swings his staff, channeling all his freezing magical power to end the match. Kai is pinned down by massive ice blocks, his body battered and severely injured in the horrific scene. Do you understand now? This is the price you pay for daring to provoke a mage. He pretends to hold his hand to his ear as if listening, then taunts. "What did you say just now? If you want to surrender, speak up and let me hear it." In the stands, Lila laughs smugly. Just as expected, trash will always be trash. Trash. "If you surrender right now, I'll spare your pathetic lives." Watching his teammate get humiliated, Lucas's eyes suddenly turned ice cold. Under immense pressure, he growled, "How long do you plan on spouting that garbage before you're satisfied?" Suddenly, Kai flashed a mysterious grin. His eyes blazed with a brilliant orange fire, radiating an overwhelming aura. He clenched a ball of energy, hot as lava, in his hand and coldly retorted, "Can your ice magic even freeze the lava flows in the Magic Beast Mountains?" Lila screamed from above in a panic, "You idiot, run!" Andre froze when he realized what Kai was holding: a lava slime core. A deafening explosion erupted on the spot, with smoke and searing flames engulfing both contestants in the middle of the arena. Andre trembled, shaking as he questioned in horror, "Detonating that at point-blank range, have you completely given up on your own life?" Yet, through the thick smoke, Kai suddenly lunged, out with eyes blazing with killing intent. Ignoring his injuries, Kai unleashed an attack that pierced Andre's magical defense, drawing blood. The crowd couldn't believe their dumb eyes. A martial artist defeating a mage? Am I dreaming? Looking at Kai's legs, now completely charred, Lucas silently marveled at his friend's iron will for daring to self-destruct. Those legs just to escape the cruel ice prison. Kai flashed a defiant smile through his blood-soaked wounds, silently recalling Lucas's advice. The exact moment his opponent broke his magic was the moment he'd be most confident, and thus his opening to attack. Andre screamed in humiliation, furious at being wounded by a mere martial artist. "But with those crippled legs, you can't dodge anymore. Die!" He focused all his ice mana into a sphere of energy, but Kai had already prepared another lava attack in his hand. Another blinding explosion erupted, right at the center. Andre gasped in terror. "This guy is insane!" Kai stubbornly pressed forward and coldly mocked, "I hate people who use ice." Andre scrambled back in a panic and yelled, "Stay away from me!" But it was too late. Kai delivered a direct headbutt that shattered Andre's glasses. He shrieked in agony and collapsed instantly, his face a mess of injuries. Andre lay motionless on the ground. He couldn't believe his ice shield had been broken by raw physical strength. The referee announced loudly, "First match, martial arts department wins." Kai excitedly held up his weapon to show off his victory to Lucas. He felt his body at its peak performance, unaware that Lucas had secretly slipped a performance-enhancing potion into his breakfast. The next match between Tacy and Lila was about to begin. Lucas confidently affirmed that with Tacy's ability, everything would be just fine. The battle started, and giant vines suddenly erupted from the ground. The class president nimbly dodged the treacherous strike, shuddering at how she had nearly been crushed in the first few seconds. Lila started spewing sarcastic remarks about the hollow moral principles of the martial artists. She shouted, "Mages only care about the final result," then activated a glowing blue magic circle on her hand. Ghostly tentacles went wild, enveloping the entire arena, but Tacy displayed incredible speed to close the distance, leaving Lila terrified and unable to react. A heavy, gut-wrenching punch landed straight in her stomach, sending her stumbling back in utter shock. She couldn't understand how someone at just level 1 could possess such terrifying speed. She locked her opponent's arms and declared firmly, "The morality of a martial artist is a lesson in knowing how to cherish human life." Lila desperately tried to use plant magic to counterattack, but Tacy unleashed a barrage of powerful strikes. Lucas watched and couldn't help but admire how she was striking directly at the mana pressure points with absolute precision. Lucas silently acknowledged that her keen eyesight and decisiveness had secured a convincing victory for Tacy, while Kai was still stunned by her speed. Tacy coldly reminded her opponent, never carelessly trample on a martial artist's self-respect. The referee announced the second consecutive victory for the martial arts department as Lila lay completely motionless on the ground. Poisoned needles fell from her sleeves onto the floor, making Mina, who was watching from afar, deeply indignant. She immediately questioned, why are such dangerous weapons allowed in a match? But he just casually sipped his tea, dismissing her concerns, claiming nothing bad had happened. Witnessing the victory of the class president, Kai cheered excitedly. Great job, Tacy! No wonder Teacher Saigon chose you as class president. This result was like a slap in the face to those who dared call martial artists trash. On the other side, the magic class teacher gritted his teeth in fury as his plan to take the spot in the Allen Tower faltered. He muttered to himself, I still have a trump card. I must win this match. The third match officially began. Lucas stepped onto the field to face an opponent wielding a glowing purple magic short sword. The moment the bell rang, the mage smugly assumed that some people like him also trained in physical techniques, and that Lucas would be completely helpless against his high-speed afterimage technique. Outside, Tacy worried as she saw Lucas only focusing on defense and keeping his distance instead of actively attacking. Lucas thought to himself, I don't need to reveal my full strength, but I still need to probe my opponent a little. He stomped his feet hard, deciding to close in with only 5% of his power. Lucas's sudden burst of speed left the mage horrified. No way! But Lucas didn't want to end the match too quickly, so he pretended to miss. However, taking advantage of the moment Lucas stood still, the mage smirked. Too bad for you. And suddenly thrust his magic short sword into Lucas's shoulder. The wound bled. Lucas lowered his head in silence, enduring the strike. The mage laughed triumphantly, claiming no one could resist his bone-crushing technique. He frantically poured all his strength into it, vowing to crush every bone in Lucas's body. However, his smile faded when he realized something was wrong. Even though he had used all his might, the bone-breaking technique that was his pride was completely useless against his opponent's steel-hard body. Witnessing Lucas being overwhelmed, Kai screamed in worry, I don't understand what's happening. The mage smugly thought Lucas was just trying to look tough, when in reality it was all a bluff. He roared, preparing to unleash the final finishing blow to end the match. But a dry, cracking sound rang out as Lucas gently blocked the attack with his bare hand. He whispered softly, I think that's enough. Lucas stomped his foot on the arena floor, creating a terrifying wave of force that shattered the ground into pieces. His opponent was stunned, shocked by this irrational strength, level 1, and this strong. That's impossible! Lucas looked at him coldly, his eyes blazing with intense pressure. Now I don't have to worry about anyone seeing what's about to happen. Are you ready? The mage's magic sword shattered instantly, making him scream in panic. My magic sword! Lucas lunged like a whirlwind, unleashing an attack that left his opponent only enough time to let out a miserable cry. He stepped heavily on him and mocked. This scene looks familiar, doesn't it? Even using only 2% of his strength, Lucas still caused the enemy agonizing pain as he asked how it felt. How about that? As the very fragments of the weapon he used to stab Anto pierced his own hand, Lucas followed up with a kick that sent the mage screaming. Writhing in pain from his severe injuries, he realized in horror that he was completely defenseless. I can't use magic. Could that last attack have severed my magical meridians? Seeing his student completely overwhelmed, old Greg jumped up from the stands and roared, Stop right there! Ignoring the protest, Lucas put all his strength into a fist, preparing to land a lethal blow right on his opponent's face. In a fit of desperation, the mage break conceded, I surrender. Lucas pulled back, looking down silently at the defeated fighter. At his feet, old Greg was still screaming wildly from afar. What the hell are you talking about? With your power, you should have easily won. Lucas scorned him inwardly, realizing the man hadn't even grasped the severity of his own student's injuries. Professor Saigon watched pensively, concerned that this victory could bring significant trouble for the martial arts department. However, the atmosphere below was incredibly lively as Kai cheered excitedly, Great job! Our martial arts department has won all 3 matches. People who had once looked down on martial artists began whispering throughout the stands. Some started to believe that martial artists could truly defeat mages in duels. Just as Lucas turned his back to leave, his opponent suddenly lunged up with a sharp dagger in hand. A female student shrieked in panic, Lucas, watch out! But Lucas was lightning fast, closing in right behind him and coldly muttering, "Finally, you show your true colors." He attacked the back of his opponent's neck without mercy. Break felt the power within his body rapidly fading away. He was shocked to realize his entire magical meridian system was being torn apart and wondered, what on earth did Lucas do? Break collapsed immediately with dead, hopeless eyes. Lucas stood towering over the loser and coldly reminded him, "When using the bone-shattering technique, didn't you think you'd get a taste of your own medicine?" The loudspeaker loudly declared the victory belonged to Lucas of the martial arts department. Up in the stands, Iva was so stunned she couldn't believe her eyes. She was completely crushed by this unimaginable result. Seeing her strange behavior, Julia asked with concern. Iva didn't answer. Deep down, she was deeply shaken, realizing the attack was actually the Meridian Shredder, a high-level technique lost for the past 100 years. Her eyes burned with suspicion as she wondered who Lucas really was to possess such terrifying power. Meanwhile, everyone was excitedly celebrating the win. Iva excitedly claimed that mages were just cowards who specialized in sneak attacks and declared she would challenge anyone who dared to look down on her. Tacy humbly suggested that the group simply performed better than usual today. The joy didn't last long before Professor Saigon appeared suddenly from behind with a murderous look, coldly snapping, "Won a little and now your head in the clouds?" "Delusional, are we?" Saigon roared, demanding the class not get arrogant just because of a few early wins. Although Iva tried to bring up that they had also won. At the taming tournament, the disheveled professor flatly dismissed it. He insisted the victory at the taming tournament was purely due to luck, as the magical beasts were already exhausted beforehand. Saigon turned away and coldly stated that in the entire martial arts department, only Lucas, Kai, and Tacy truly possessed any talent. Saigon stood under the tree. "Tell me the truth. Do you plan to live your whole lives like parasites, feeding off the strong?" He emphasized that even when being senselessly attacked and nearly killed like Colin and Sap, if they still relied on others to handle their revenge and survival, instead of themselves, they would never become strong. Saigon coldly walked away, leaving one final warning. "If you truly think that's an acceptable way to live, then you had better leave the martial arts department immediately." These words stung the student's pride like salt in a wound. Lucas pensively watched his teacher's back. He silently agreed that Saigon's words were entirely accurate. Martial artists need self-confidence, but if they don't strive to train and let arrogance take over, they will forever stand still, going nowhere. Behind the tree, Professor Linda suddenly appeared and teased Saigon for starting to act like a real homeroom teacher. Saigon just sighed wearily, admitting he just didn't want the kids to follow in his footsteps and end up as miserably as he did. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Break's condition was becoming dire. Pitch-black cracks spread across his hand like a spiderweb, a terrifying phenomenon similar to the ancient forbidden art called meridian shredding. Break sat slumped on the hospital bed, his whole body covered by a dark, evil aura. He growled in pain as the agony from his ruined meridians tore through his body. In the quiet of the night, a carriage rushed into the academy grounds. Amidst the tense atmosphere, inside, the room... Break's father slammed his hand on the table, his face twisted with rage and pain as he shouted, "How did a fight between freshmen turn into this? My son's magical meridians have been completely destroyed, and he can never use magic again." He frantically demanded blind justice punish that bastard. Dissolve the martial arts department right now. Just then, a bottle was smashed to pieces on the floor. Saigon stepped in with a cold gaze, severe punishment for a vicious culprit. "Absolutely right," he said. "The magic that Break's trio used in the match matches perfectly with the magic used on Sap and Colin. It's clear those three were the culprits who severely injured our students. Principal, handle these people, according to the rules." Break, standing nearby, couldn't help but think in shock, those guys, they intended to finish off their opponent during the match? But why is he bringing this up right now? Don't try to change the subject. We're discussing who is responsible for Break being hit with a forbidden art. Saigon remained calm. He insisted that Break being hit with a forbidden art had not been confirmed, and the Meridian Shredder is definitely not something a novice martial artist could use. Hearing this, Break's father had to nod in agreement, believing that the incompetent eldest son of the Ryan family whom the gods had forsaken could never have the level of skill to control such an ancient forbidden art. Brake clicked his tongue sarcastically. Only a high-level martial artist could execute a forbidden art. But the only high-level martial artist present the person at the competition site turned out to be none other than Professor Saigon. He stepped closer, leaning his face right toward Saigon with a sinister smirk. "I suspect you're using forbidden arts, don't you think?" "Then you do it," Saigon retorted coldly. "If I could use forbidden magic, I would have used it on you a long time ago." The headmaster sat majestically in his chair, looked straight at Saigon and pressed, "Teacher Saigon, you seem to think student Brake wasn't hit by forbidden magic. Then how do you explain his current condition?" "Perhaps this is karma," Saigon stated coldly regarding Brake's condition. He recounted that he had questioned Lucas afterward, and the boy insisted he had no idea how to use forbidden magic. But he offered a convincing theory. Lucas suggested that Brake, being a rebellious noble child, must have spent a large sum of money to learn tricks to torture others from black market assassins. So it's very likely that a master from the underworld, fearing information leakage, used this match as a pretext to strike secretly. Hearing this, Headmaster Otani fell into deep thought. Brake's father, however, screamed in a rage, "Are you trying to use these ridiculous rumors to cover everything up?" Rick, standing nearby, also argued that this was just baseless speculation. Saigon immediately countered, asserting that this theory was still far more credible, compared to a novice martial artist being able to use ancient forbidden magic. He emphasized that someone with terrifying power was clearly there behind the scenes, and he warned, "Provoke that master, and you'll see what real hell is like." The meridian severing technique is truly a cruel art, capable of destroying even the most talented mages in a split second. That night at the Allen Academy Library, Headmaster Otani searched for clues alone with a lantern. He stopped before an old bookshelf and exclaimed, "Found it!" Observing closely, he realized the dust on the book about meridians had been wiped clean, proving someone had just held it not long ago. Flipping through the pages, his eyes stopped at an illustration describing a special hand seal. "Glowing under the light, just as I thought." "Ha ha ha!" The headmaster chuckled mysteriously in the silent space, at the same time at a secret hot spring in the Magic Beast mountain range. Lucas was preparing to perform the final step in the treatment process for Anto and Dezio. He poured a vial of shimmering medicinal herbs into the water and announced, "Your final therapy session starts now." Steam billowed, enveloping the bodies of the two friends soaking in the spring. Anto and Dezio gritted their teeth in pain as brilliant green spiritual energy began to emerge, weaving into every muscle fiber, powerfully regenerating the devastated meridians. Witnessing his teammates' pain, Lucas stood by, watching with intense focus and kindly reassuring them. "It's going to hurt, but you two just need to hang on for a little longer." He stated loudly a truth that the magic world had completely forgotten for so long. Martial arts healers are even more top tier than a bunch of mages. A few days later, in town, the luxurious carriage of the Ryan family finally stopped in front of the Academy's majestic gates. "Mr. Holt." Ryan kindly supported his wife's hand and smiled, "We'll be seeing the kids soon." Catherine nodded slightly and replied, "Yes, it's been such a long time." Looking up at the towering fortress walls, she was filled with nostalgia. She remarked that this place hadn't changed at all since the old days. Seeing his wife looking pensive, Mr. Holt worriedly called her name. Catherine smiled to reassure her husband that she was just remembering some old stories, so she told him not to worry too much. Suddenly, the sound of rapid hoofbeats rang out. Catherine was stunned to recognize a familiar face and exclaimed, "The person who just arrived is..." It was Sir Saren Miranda, Catherine's younger brother and also Iva's father. He dismounted, smiled, and greeted, "Sister, it's been a long time." This unexpected meeting brought back memories from 10 years ago, when the Beastkin tribes launched large-scale attacks on the Empire's border. The brutal wars erupted continuously, leaving the sky forever covered in smoke, fire, and the screams of monsters. Faced with the invasion of the ferocious Beastkin army, humanity had to unite to fight back together. After 3 days and nights of relentless fighting, both sides suffered extremely heavy losses in the fierce battlefield. There, a young female mage stood on the brink of life and death as a giant monster closed in on her. At that split-second life-or-death moment, a young knight rushed in like a god, swung his sword to cut down the monster, and caught her just in time. That was the fated moment when the young knight leader, Holt Rian, and the female mage, Catherine Miranda, met for the first time. Having gone through life and death moments on the battlefield together, they swore to bind their lives to each other forever. Catherine's father, Duke Miranda, had once vehemently opposed this marriage, leading her to cut off all contact with her family. Saren looked pensive as he watched his sister. He hadn't expected that the children of the two houses would meet for the first time at this very Allen Magic Academy. Time passes so quickly. Saren smiled and said that Julia looked just like Catherine in the old days, and suggested, "Aren't you planning to go home? Father is still waiting for you," Catherine asked happily, but her smile vanished when she heard Kane confirm, "That's right, but only you." She was shocked to realize Father still hadn't forgiven her. Holt understood his wife's situation and took the initiative. "You go ahead. After all, I have to head to the front lines right now." He kindly advised, "At least I'm glad they let you go home alone. I'll come pick you up when the campaign ends." Watching Holt's back depart, Catherine felt secretly grateful that her husband had set aside his pride to secretly ask Kane to help her reconcile with her family. However, Saren was still troubled because their father hadn't forgiven the fact that a noble mage had married a martial artist. He silently hoped that one day someone would appear to erase society's prejudices against martial artists. At the same time at the academy, Lucas suddenly sneezed. He wondered if he had been training too hard and caught a cold. Julia stood nearby and teased when she saw Kai carrying a large bag of food. "It's rare to see Kai-kun buying food for others, huh?" Kai shouted back angrily, "Mind your own business, you nosy person!" He grumbled that after Anto and the others recovered, he would definitely make them treat him to a real feast as payment. Lucas could only smile wryly in response. However, malicious whispers from the magic students began to ring out. They called Lucas the lucky king of the martial arts department and claimed he only won against Break because an outsider assassin had acted first. Hearing the gossip, Julia radiated a pitch-black threatening aura that terrified that group of students in the cafeteria. Lucas noticed his younger sister's new hair clip and asked, "Is that hair clip new?" Julia happily showed it off, saying it was a gift from Sister Iva of the Miranda family. Lucas was secretly astonished to see the Miranda family proactively approaching his sister. He realized that with Julia's talent, it was understandable that they wanted to recruit her, because Lucas's mother had told Julia to try to get along with Iva. Julia excitedly added, "I'm the class president now. I have to show off to Mom right away." Mina suddenly appeared from behind. She placed her tray of food down and sent warm congratulations to Julia. Mina confidently asserted, "In the future, you will definitely become a pillar of this school. I will always support you." Julia repeated, bewildered, "A pillar of the school?" Suddenly, a quiet figure glided past, catching her attention. It was a female student with long black hair and a melancholic face, walking in silence through the crowded hallway. Going back in time a little bit, inside the faculty office, the atmosphere was incredibly tense. The teacher sat behind the desk, delivering the decision with a cold gaze. "While your spiritual magic aptitude may rival Julia's, in every other aspect, she is far superior to you. That is why I believe Julia is better suited for the class representative position." Iwa stood there, head bowed in humiliation and resentment. As she walked out of the room, she gritted her teeth, her eyes burning with hatred as she made a silent vow. "Just you wait. I'll show everyone who's really the best." Back in the present, at the cafeteria, Julia watched Iwa's retreating back with concern, whispering to herself, "She's gone." She looked really angry, and she didn't even eat properly. "I should go buy lunch and bring it to Iwa-chan." Seeing this, Mina curiously asked if Julia and Iwa were close. The girl excitedly confirmed they were roommates and couldn't stop showering her with praise. "Yes. Iwa-chan's spiritual magic is truly amazing. It was my first time seeing it," Lucas mused, remarking that spiritual magic is indeed a rare ability. While Mina secretly evaluated Julia's brother's sharp instincts, she suddenly tapped her finger on the table, activating a glowing magic circle that enveloped the group. Lucas immediately sensed something was off and cast a sound-dampening barrier. "All right, what kind of shady business are you up to, Mina?" Bringing a finger to her lips with a calculated smile, she signaled for silence, thinking to herself, "People who are too smart are usually quite a handful to deal with." Then, she casually suggested, "My wind magic is also quite interesting, if you're interested." Julia happily offered her remaining food to her brother, but Lucas had already seen through the vice president's intentions. He coldly set his fork down and asked point-blank, "Mina-senpai, you didn't just come here to chat, did you?" Mina slightly adjusted her glasses, inwardly acknowledging that Julia's brother was incredibly vigilant. But she believed that as long as she had Julia's affection, this interference wouldn't be much of a problem. Mina cut straight to the point. You're very sharp. Then I'll be direct. You know about the dangerous beast-filled mountain range behind the school, right? Mina got to the point quickly without beating around the bush, revealing that there had been abnormal ecological changes there recently. The population of low-level magic beasts was dropping drastically. Even the phantom leopards, which used to be abundant, had completely disappeared without a trace. Hearing this, Lucas froze, remembering the scene when he rode Uru through the forest that night. Mina continued, revealing that 3 days ago, the Imperial investigation team had discovered the lair of a high-level magic beast. Lucas was startled, dropping his spoon onto the table, his heart filled with anxiety. Don't tell me that's Uru's lair? He quickly regained his composure and asked about the difficulty of the field mission the student council wanted to entrust to them. Mina covered her mouth, her eyes gleaming mysteriously as she stated the reward 100 points. Both siblings were stunned by this massive bounty. Eyes lighting up at the thought of the money, Lucas told himself that with his and Julia's current strength, everything would be resolved easily. Meanwhile, at the Miranda mansion, a luxurious but suffocating banquet was taking place. Soa Miranda, the duke and head of the family, was calmly enjoying his dinner. Cyrus looked at his father and sighed internally, realizing his stubbornness for keeping his older sister Catherine in the living room, even though her old room had been cleaned and ready for a long time. Catherine sat silently opposite him. She didn't even touch a piece of food, making the meal's atmosphere as heavy as a funeral. Suddenly, Lord Soa called out his daughter's name. He tapped the table lightly and declared resonantly, "As for Julia, a child with the potential to become a Saint Mage, I am willing to recognize her as a grandchild of the Miranda family." Catherine was moved and thanked him, but as soon as she intended to mention that Lucas was also an excellent martial artist who just achieved a perfect score, Lord Soa flatly dismissed it. He firmly asserted that no matter how good a martial artist one might be, it was completely meaningless to this family. Lord Soa wiped his mouth and emphasized, "The Miranda family only seeks geniuses with the capability to become Saint Mages." Catherine felt a deep sadness, knowing her father's prejudice against martial arts hadn't changed after all these years. Just then, a servant entered to present an urgent letter from the investigation team at the Beast Mountain Range. The content of the letter made Lord Soa frown in thought. A new area had been discovered beneath the lair, with an undetermined threat level. This news made Catherine and Kane extremely worried. They feared that the incidents at the mountain range would threaten the safety of the students at Allen Academy. Lord Soa stood up, asserting that with the protection of the teachers and his subordinates at the school, the children would be safe if they stayed inside the academy. He demanded that Catherine wait until the situation stabilized before visiting her grandchildren. Catherine could only bow her head in obedient sadness. She looked down with sorrowful eyes, silently whispering, "Lucas, Julia, please be patient and wait for me a little longer." Back at the academy, Mina was shocked to hear from a student council staff member that to accept this mission, a minimum of 5 people was required, and one of them had to be a student council member. She shouted in anger, as it was clear that yesterday there hadn't been any such rule about the number of participants. The staff member nervously explained that President Theo had changed the requirements due to the discovery of irregularities in the mountain cave. Mina gritted her teeth in frustration. "Intentionally making things difficult for me, huh? You think I can't pull this off?" Lucas silently assessed. So this vice president is so isolated that she can't even find 5 people to go with her. No wonder she tried to approach Julia right from the entrance exam. Seeing Mina about to give up in disappointment, Lucas stepped forward firmly. "Leave the recruiting to us." Julia excitedly supported him. "That's right, we'll help you, Senpai." Mina was touched and thanked them, but immediately thought to herself, "These children are so kind that it makes me feel a bit guilty for using them as pawns." At that moment, Kai Taroi appeared majestically in shining steel armor and declared loudly, "Greetings, Senpai! Where my best friend Lucas goes, Kai goes!" He was excited to show off the high-end equipment his parents had just bought for him. Right after, Maya Rasta appeared with a magic book in hand and politely introduced herself. "Nice to meet everyone. I specialize in water attribute healing magic. I hope I can be of some help." Witnessing a team of total rookies, Mina was speechless and silently took back her compliment from earlier. She feared these kids would only be a burden for this mission. Lucas asked his sister why she called Maya instead of Iwa. Julia could only sigh, as Iwa wouldn't even listen to her. Mina held her head in exhaustion, reassuring herself that they only needed the head count to fill the spots anyway, and the main mission would be handled by her and Julia. She barked orders, Let's go, before we miss our chance to leave. Mina activated acceleration magic, announcing that even with magical support, it would take half a day to reach the beast lair. A few hours later, the group tore through the forest at high speed and finally stopped in front of a dark, gloomy cave. Mina announced coldly, "We've arrived!" Standing before the entrance, Mina realized this area was already being investigated by the Imperial Survey team. Seeing the flag embroidered with a thorn rose waving, she confirmed that the family crest belonged to the Miranda clan. While Mina and Kai were examining the lingering traces of battle on the ground, Lucas let out a silent sigh of relief that they hadn't found Uru's lair. Suddenly, a wave of bloodlust struck. It caught Lucas off guard, his expression shifting instantly. He shouted a warning as the enemy attacked from above. A ferocious winged creature with burning red eyes dove straight down from the sky. Immediately, Mina swung her staff, activating a magic circle. Oh, wild winds become a sharp blade. But the attack didn't stop there, as swarms of other monsters began to surround the group. Mina quickly called out a magic barrier spell, while Kai bravely used his shield to block the razor-sharp claws of the enemies. Kai boldly declared, "Leave the close combat to us. Leave it all to the brothers." Lucas also dove into the fight with a lightning-fast kick. He smirked, teasing, "Don't go hogging all the spotlight." Kai wouldn't be outdone. Fighting and taunting, he yelled, "Think you can keep up with my speed?" Behind them, Maya gave it her all. Supporting them with the water spirit barrier, she shouted, "Just keep fighting. I've got the healing covered." The group coordinated perfectly amidst the swarm of flying monsters. Mina watched the scene and whispered to herself. She marveled. It had been so long since she felt everyone fighting in such perfect sync. She quickly identified the enemy's weakness and commanded, "These monsters are terrified of magic. Wind and lightning! Julia, you're up next." Julia focused all her magic power into her staff and loudly activated the magic barrier. Huge bursts of purple lightning erupted, wiping out the swarm of monsters in a blinding flash, accompanied by their agonizing shrieks. Witnessing this destructive power, both Lucas and Kai were secretly stunned by the terrifying force from Julia's lightning magic. Mina stood there, stunned, watching the enemy's ashes dissolve into gray smoke. Noticing Mina staring at her intently, Julia asked innocently, "Did you say something, sister?" Mina, startled and breaking into a cold sweat, she tremblingly replied, "No, nothing at all." She turned away with a complex expression, silently admitting a shocking truth to herself. She had completely underestimated the capabilities of these pieces. Maya began casting healing magic on Kai's arm, making the wounds disappear in a split second. Kai exclaimed in surprise, "Amazing! My wounds are healing instantly. You really are a goddess," Maya replied shyly. "No, I'm not. Calling me a goddess is a bit much." But in her heart, she began daydreaming about Lucas tenderly taking her hand and saying, "Thank you for healing me, my goddess." The thought made Maya blush beet red from embarrassment. Lucas, standing nearby, watched Maya's strange expression and couldn't help but wonder. She quickly shook off the silly thoughts, telling herself, the best way is to not let anyone get hurt in the first place. The group started moving deeper inside, and they were all stunned by the sheer size of the cave. Julia cheered excitedly, "Wow, it's so wide open in here." Kai was also amazed when he realized the place was so huge that even a small army could camp here comfortably. Lucas observed the cave walls and silently deduced, "This doesn't look like a natural cave. It looks like it was excavated. This place is definitely crawling with monsters underground." Mina nodded in agreement and warned that the deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be. So she demanded everyone stay extremely alert. Suddenly, a group of axe-wielding goblins lunged out of the darkness. Julia decisively waved her hand, unleashing blasts of purple lightning, causing the monsters to wail in agony. Mina explained that these goblins had lived underground for so long that their eyesight had deteriorated. They relied mostly on hearing to hunt. By using the thunder from just now, she had destroyed their hearing to ensure the group's safety. However, Lucas noticed that the number of monsters seemed endless, and that if they kept fighting passively like this, they would exhaust themselves. A moment later, Kai suddenly dashed into the cave, running while waving his arms and shouting, "Hey, Bait! Come and get me!" Julia and Maya immediately coordinated their magic to finish off the targets. Julia's purple lightning merged with Maya's swirling wind spell, creating a massive energy storm that wiped out all the goblins and slimes in an instant. Witnessing this, Lucas silently marveled at the efficiency of their area of effect tactics. Kai lay among the wreckage, boasting triumphantly, "I lured the enemies into one spot, then the seniors and Julia finished them all at once." What do you think? Great plan, right? He even claimed this technique was only possible because of the high-end gear he was wearing, and teased Lucas. Sorry for stealing all the spotlight. Lucas could only sigh. Don't think everyone is as fame-hungry as you. After Maya healed their wounds, the group continued deeper into the cave. They slowly approached the center and found a treasure hoard overflowing with gold, silver, and glowing ancient weapons. Seeing that Julia and the others were exhausted, Lucas suggested, "Let's take a break, Julia. Everyone is drained." But Kai pretended not to hear. He continued to charge forward with his sword to lure more bait. "Come out, you monsters!" He was extremely fearless, not knowing the meaning of terror. Julia remarked, "He is pretending not to hear, isn't he?" Just a moment later, Kai came running back in a panic, followed by a swarm of lizard monsters. "I brought them here. Here, I'm leaving the rest to you all." However, he soon looked confused when he realized the area was completely empty. Huh? Where did everyone go? Hiding behind a rock, Lucas joked that the group had to sacrifice their comrade, while Julia clasped her hands in prayer. "Rest in peace, Kai-kun." Maya worried, "If he still has even one breath left, I'll definitely save you." Wait! Suddenly, a deep, heavy thud resounded from the cave ceiling, making Maya look up in terror. Lucas deduced, "No, it's coming from the center of the cave." The scouting team must have found the boss of this place. The group then decided to head toward the sound to check the situation. As they got closer, the thick stench of blood filled the space, making Lucas frown. Mina handed everyone a vial of medicine and instructed, "First, drink the recovery potion I brought from home." She noted that, given the scouts' skills, they probably wouldn't need intervention, but they should check just to be sure. However, the scene before them left everyone horrified. The entire elite scouting team had been brutally murdered. Amidst the red smog, Mina, trembling, ordered, "This is impossible. The entire scouting team, they're all dead." "What happened?" "This is wrong. Abort the mission and retreat immediately." A terrifying explosion suddenly erupted from the rubble. A giant entity with the form of a minotaur, with burning blue eyes full of bloodlust, appeared. The monster roared madly, swinging a massive axe with destructive force directly at Mina's position. She asked in horror, "Why would a minotaur, a disaster-level creature, appear in a place like this?" Lucas immediately sensed something was wrong. He thought to himself, "A monster this strong should never appear in a school mission. Something is definitely off." This terrifying sense of familiarity made him suspicious that he had encountered this presence somewhere before. Lucas shouted, "Look out!" A sudden ice shield appeared, blocking the Minotaur's 1,000-pound strike. It shattered immediately upon impact under the horrific pressure. Julia ran over in a panic to check on her brother and Mina, while Lucas wondered if Mina had created that ice shield. She could only shake her head in denial. Lucas's gaze immediately snapped toward the monster's hand. He realized the person who had just saved their lives was the very man being crushed in its grip. The Minato roared. Growling with pure hatred, it glared at the man in its hand. "You dare block my path? Die!" Even though he was severely wounded, the soldier urgently pressed them. "Go! Get reinforcements from the Imperial Army! Go!" The soldier painfully announced that the ancient seal here has been completely broken. The monster squeezed him frantically, glaring at the group and roaring savagely, "You foolish wretches! I will devour every single one of you!" Witnessing such cruelty, Julia and Maya could only scream in absolute outrage. Amidst the rubble, a small vial suddenly dropped and rolled across the ground. Yet the brave soldier, despite his heavy injuries, gritted his teeth, activated a massive magic circle, and bellowed, "Enough nonsense! Get lost!" A giant pillar of ice suddenly erupted, piercing through the monster's arm, much to its shock. The soldier collapsed from exhaustion, only managing to whisper his final words. "Go! Quickly! Report what's happening here." Mina hurriedly pulled Julia. She ran, responding to the soldier's plea with firm resolve. Lucas looked at the man who had sacrificed himself with a heavy heart, silently promising, "I'm sorry. Since I couldn't save you, I will come back soon to avenge you." Behind them, the soldier still tried to shout, urging the group to escape while they could. "Everyone, I have done everything I possibly could." But the Minato had madly shattered the ice covering it, roaring with fury at being treated like a bug by someone who dared to sneak attack it. The Minato opened its fanged maw, ready to swallow the soldier whole, prepare to be dessert. Just in the nick of time, a bolt of purple lightning struck the monster's face with great force, making it howl in pain. Julia stood defiantly with her staff held high, her eyes glowing with rage as she declared, "He is not a bug. He is a great warrior." While the monster was stunned by the surprise attack, Mina immediately used wind magic to save the soldier who was falling freely toward the ground. Mina cast a wind bomb, creating pressure to displace the air and catch him safely. She frantically shouted at Lucas, "Why are you standing your ground instead of running, when that soldier sacrificed his life to buy us time?" Lucas silently stepped forward. "I will hold this monster back. Mina, get out of here and report the situation." Mina was horrified and tried to stop him, as this was a disaster-level creature that a first-year student could never handle. He coldly admitted, "You're right. This won't be easy at all." The monster roared in fury, creating a terrifying shockwave that shook the entire cavern. While Lucas intended to take it on alone to let everyone run, Mina suddenly swung her staff, activated a magic circle, and stepped forward. She shouted firmly, "Step back! As the vice president, it is my duty to protect everyone." This brave action made Lucas change his view of her. He thought to himself, Mina is truly much braver than her usual calculating exterior suggests. It wasn't just Mina. Both Julia and Maya also refused to leave. Julia insisted she would never abandon her brother and Mina behind. Meanwhile, Maya quickly sent a distress signal to Kai at the cave entrance and called for everyone to fight together. Mina could only sigh, thinking that if Maya knew how to use communication magic, she should have said so sooner to save time dealing with it. The Minato roared violently but was immediately struck by a bolt of purple lightning from Julia. Even so, Mina was still worried that even by joining forces, the group would struggle to defeat this terrifying creature. Just then, his hand glowed with golden energy, along with a confident declaration, "Please trust in everyone!" Lucas channeled all his power into his fist. It glowed like the sun, radiating an intimidating pressure. He lunged straight at the giant Minato and roared with determination. "There is no way we are going to lose to a monster like this." The Minato roared wildly, swinging its giant axe down with fearsome power. Lucas didn't flinch. He funneled all his spirit energy into his fist. Glowing with golden light, a full-force punch was unleashed. The impact was so strong that the monster's eyes widened in shock. Mina shouted, "Lucas, keep applying that pressure. I'll attack!" While he grabbed its attention, Lucas responded decisively. "Got it! Treated like a bug and attacked by someone it looked down on." The Minato screamed in wild fury, "You lowly insects, how dare you!" Mina quickly activated a massive magic circle glowing beneath her feet. "It looks like he's ready." Immediately, Julia also poured all her lightning mana into her glowing staff and screamed, "How dare you bully my brother! Eat lightning!" A powerful purple bolt struck down from above, engulfing the Minato in agonizing screams. Seizing the opportunity while the enemy was paralyzed by the current, Lucas unleashed consecutive 1,000-pound blows against the monster's weak points, shattering the stone ground. The Minato shrieked in agony. Amidst the dust and smoke, Lucas narrowed his eyes, full of resolve, realizing the moment had come. "I've hit its weak point and locked its movements." Right now, Julia immediately activated the Thunder Arrow Bell skill, while Mina poured all her wind techniques into her palms to create sharp currents called Wind Cutter. Both pushed their full power, shouting in unison, and launched their combined attack. It hit the enemy with overwhelming force. A destructive combo, the combination of Julia's lightning and Mina's wind created a terrifying explosion that struck the Minato, making it scream in pain. Despite being heavily wounded, the monster gritted its teeth with hatred. "Damn it! As soon as these legs recover, I'll rip every one of you to shreds!" Faced with that threat, Maya stepped forward with eyes glowing with determination. "I won't let that happen. Take this!" She activated a water system magic called Water Phone, pouring a massive torrent of water over the entire body of the monster. Mina gasped for air, exhausted after channeling all her mana into the attack. However, Mina was shocked to notice something unusual and exclaimed, "Its legs have recovered already? Does this final boss have regeneration hacks? This is insane." The Minato casually swung its giant axe, brushing the water away, and laughed arrogantly. "A little water. Like this is nothing. I will eat you all alive." It lunged straight at Maya with terrifying speed and bloodlust. Just in the nick of time, Julia shouted loudly, "What happens when someone wet gets hit by lightning? Let's find out." She focused all her lightning mana into her glowing staff, purple bolts crackling with power. Julia roared, "You will pay with your life for killing those soldiers!" A massive bolt of lightning, carrying destructive power, struck down onto the Minato, which was soaking wet, causing it to howl in absolute agony as the current coursed through its entire body. Lucas watched and marveled at his younger sister's quick thinking. So that's it. She used water to amplify the lightning attack. To be able to come up with a strategy like that on the spot, she truly lives up to being the top student. The monster collapsed, its body smoking black and lying motionless amidst the rubble. Lucas coldly approached. His hand, golden spiritual energy flares up, heavy with pressure. "Let me put an end to this." Suddenly, Mina notices something. She gasps, "Huh?" A wave of evil, black and red malice erupts violently from the Minotaur's corpse. Mina trembles in horror at the crushing pressure. It envelops the entire space. What the hell is this? Lucas also freezes as he sees a ghostly shadow slowly rising from within the monster's body, radiating a power, a malevolent strength far beyond imagination. From the rubble, a massive dark entity with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp fangs emerges, emitting a chilling, maniacal laugh. At the same time, outside the cave, the ground begins to shake violently. Kai, who is keeping watch, panics, wondering if it's an earthquake. Realizing the danger is escalating, he makes a quick decision. "I've got to get help! Everyone hang in there!" Kai turns and bolts into the night to find reinforcements. The monster roars crazily, its sharp fangs bared amidst the pitch-black smoke. A wave of crimson malice wraps around its body. A concussive explosion bursts from its roar, sending a shockwave that flings everything nearby aside. Lucas is knocked back, tumbling across the ground under the overwhelming force. The Minotaur now stands tall with glowing red eyes, its entire body covered in a powerful aura of darkness. Lucas puts a hand to his ear. He's horrified to realize the sonic waves from its roar alone were enough to injure him and draw blood. He thinks to himself that this thing has truly become much stronger than before. As he struggles to stand, Lucas frantically asks if everyone is okay. The situation has turned dire. Mina, Maya, and Julia are all unable to resist, lying motionless on the ground with severe wounds. Witnessing his sister, lying amidst the rubble with blood on her lips, Lucas's eyes suddenly turn empty and overflow with cold, killing intent. Driven by pure rage, he gathers all his spiritual energy into his body, preparing for a devastating attack. The monster roars in defiance. He closes the distance to his opponent with unimaginable speed. Lucas's eyes flare with golden light, burning with hatred. He bellows decisively, "I'm going to kill you!" The monster roars madly, but Lucas doesn't flinch. A terrifying surge of power explodes, throwing everything around them aside, and leaving a massive wound on the evil creature's body. Lucas lands, his sharp gaze never leaving his opponent for a single second. Yet, Lucas's expression quickly turns to shock when he realizes the monster doesn't seem to feel any pain. He thinks, what the hell? Why doesn't it feel pain? While Lucas retreats to keep his distance, a black, malicious aura begins, swirling around the Minotaur's wound. He is stunned to see its mangled arm regenerating at an incredible speed. The monster swings its giant axe, slamming it into the ground and creating a violent tremor that shatters the stone. Although he dodged in time, the pressure from the swing was so strong it made Lucas cough up blood. Wiping the blood from his lip, he blames himself. "Just the wind pressure made me cough blood, I was careless." Facing Lucas's tenacity, the monster begins to radiate an even thicker killing intent. It feels a thrill as it senses the blood of a true warrior starting to boil. Another explosion erupts, shaking the entire cave and forcing Lucas to slide across the ground to avoid the attack. The Minotaur doesn't give him a moment to rest. It charges with terrifying speed, its glowing red eyes leaving streaks in the dark space. The power from the heaven-shaking collisions causes the cave ceiling to crack violently. Massive boulders collapse as if to bury them all. Lucas is horrified, realizing the impending doom. He thinks, this is bad. The rocks are falling right where everyone is. Amidst the thick dust, Lucas lunges forward like a madman. A huge boulder drops right where Julia lies motionless. But Lucas manages to shield his sister in time, protecting her from the lethal impact. He looks back at his teammates with worried eyes, while the Minotaur continues to roar wildly in a crimson aura. The evil entity opens its fangs-filled mouth wide. The brutal roar creates shockwave energy spirals, directly attacking Lucas's hearing and internal organs. He realizes the situation is becoming worse than ever. The roar echoes off the collapsing stone walls, growing even stronger. The pressure from the resonant sound leaves Lucas unable to stand. He collapses, his breathing shallow, coughing up blood continuously from his severe injuries. But the Minotaur has no intention of letting up. It swings its giant, arm covered in thick black smoke, delivering a fatal blow from above. With glowing red, murderous eyes, it roars out a death sentence. Go to hell! But the giant axe blade is suddenly blocked by Lucas with just one hand. His body is now enveloped in blazing golden spiritual energy. Lucas cannot retreat, because behind him are the people he needs to protect. Lucas's eyes flare with a firm blue light. He roars with all his fury. As long as I'm alive, I will never let you touch Julia and the others. Taking advantage of the monster's momentary hesitation, he quickly snatches the axe from the beast's hand. Lucas pours all his spiritual energy into a strike, slamming the axe blade down onto the monster's body, causing it to scream in pain. Lucas's eyes flare with orange light, filled with wrath. Every muscle in his face twitches violently as his frenzy reaches its peak. He unleashes a thunderous punch that directly crushes the Minotaur's jaw. Without a second of hesitation, Lucas closes the gap, grabbing the monster's massive body with his bare hands and slamming it into the rubble. The battle turns into a one-sided slaughter as the monster is knocked back, screaming in despair. Amidst the dust, Lucas emerges with his chest covered in blood, the scars on his body glowing under the terrifying pressure of his spiritual power. His eyes are now red as blood, radiating the aura of a true monster, as he stands proudly upon the fragments of his enemy's very skin. The Minotaur roars insanely. It swings a giant fist straight at the small figure in front of it. Despite knowing the size difference, Lucas courageously faces it head-on, creating a heaven-shaking power explosion that rocks the entire cave. Closing in right in front of the monster's face, Lucas coldly delivers a death sentence in a deep, gravelly voice. Time for me to send you to meet your maker. Surrounding him, thick killing intent manifests into countless red characters for slaughter, blanketing the space like a death curse. The monster, terrified, gasps. What is this? In utter shock at the sudden burst of power, Lucas's eyes burn with murderous intent. He pours all his rage into the final destructive attack. A massive pillar of energy descends, piercing through the Minotaur's body in a concussive explosion that shakes the entire mountain range outside. Violent tremors from within the mountain cave continue to ripple outward. Amidst the pouring rain, Julia moans softly and slowly regains consciousness. After the daze, she asks herself in shock, "Are we still alive? Where is my brother? The battle is over, Lucas." Standing tall among the ruins, the monster has been completely obliterated, leaving behind a terrifying silence. Amidst the crimson-tinged dust of the cave, Julia looks toward the distance, stunned. She called out in tears, "Big brother!" But Lucas didn't seem like himself anymore. Crimson energy, like twisted demonic veins, began surging to the surface, consuming his entire body. Lucas let out a gut-wrenching scream of pure agony as a dark power madly seized his mind. Right on his chest, a grotesque sigil of goat's head inside a pentagram suddenly flared with light. The space around them shifted instantly, dragging them into a burning void known as the Altar of Wrath, surrounded by a vast sea of fire. The silhouette of a martial god flickered in the smoke and flames, seemingly held captive by some malevolent force. Then, from the molten lava, a gigantic hand of fire erupted, dragging a powerful entity out from the shadows. A demon with long, curved horns and rippling muscles that shook the ground with every step. Its eyes burned with killing intent as it locked onto the chaotic aura. It growled a name, filled with pure hatred. This terrifying being was Vansaba, the demon king of wrath. He gritted his teeth and declared with cruel malice, "I will tear you to pieces." Just then, a voice, filled with wicked charm, echoed, "Oh, how interesting." Appearing alongside a giant serpent was Jensida, a high-ranking demon queen with long, seductive yet treacherous blue hair. She smiled and revealed that Vansaba was only able to awaken thanks to the rage of the key they had carefully chosen. Vansaba huffed with disdain. He looked into the distance and wondered if that brat truly possessed the hidden potential. Jensida smiled knowingly as she watched Lucas's transformation. From his burning throne, Vansaba smugly asserted that at this very moment, the young boy was breaking through every restraint to unleash his true power. Lucas, having completely lost his reason, shrieked in a frenzy, "I will kill you!" Through the pitch-black smoke, Julia risked everything to rush forward and hug her brother tight, sobbing, "Big brother, stop! Please, come back to your senses!" Mina screamed in shock, "Julia, get back now!" Julia's heartbreaking cry reached deep into the soul Lucas had buried under the darkness. A single tear fell, creating ripples that spread across his mind, which was sinking down into the abyss. Amidst that void, his little sister's desperate call became a guiding light, helping Lucas find himself again and slowly break free from the control of the evil magic. As the smoke and dust cleared, Julia looked anxiously at the figure standing amidst the rubble and called out softly, "Big brother?" The glowing red marks on Lucas's body began to fade, and he started to regain his consciousness. Lucas turned to his sister with a gentle gaze and whispered, "I'm back to normal now. I'm sorry, please. Step back a little." Julia cheered with joy and immediately obeyed her brother. Lucas took a deep breath, trying to steady his breathing and pull back the surging spiritual energy. The jet-black veins on his body slowly faded as a brilliant golden aura enveloped the space, then vanished completely. The demonic sigil on Lucas's chest also slowly receded, bringing peace back to the ruined cavern after the horrific battle. Seeing that he had calmed down, Mina and Julia rushed over from behind. Julia asked worriedly, "Brother Lucas, are you okay?" Lucas sat down exhausted amidst the debris and replied softly to reassure them, "I'm fine." Julia threw herself into his arms, sobbing with fear. "Oh my God, you scared the life out of me. I'm sorry. I promise from now on I will never do anything to make you all worry like that again." Meanwhile, in the dark, Demon Realm, Demon King, Vansaba sat nonchalantly on his throne amidst the sea of fire. Jensida licked her lips with a wicked glint in her eyes, remarking that the key named Lucas still needed to go through many more cruel trials to truly awaken. For instance, making him taste the pain of losing his family and much more. The image of Julia appeared like an omen of the tragic storm about to descend upon the Rian family. Changing scenes to another place, voices kept echoing, "Wake up, Lucas! Wake up, Lucas!" In his delirium, he mumbled, "Who?" Images of his parents and Julia suddenly appeared in his mind, but they were surrounded by monstrous red spots. Lucas blankly called out to his loved ones, "Mom, Dad, Julia." Julia cheered joyfully when she saw him move. He opened his eyes. Thank goodness. But the space around them suddenly went black. A sharp pain struck him, causing his eyes to blaze with terrifying bloodshot veins. Lucas panicked, realizing his body was moving on its own, beyond his control. He whispered their names in desperation as the darkness swallowed his last shred of reason. Suddenly, a shout rang out. "Hey, Lucas! Are you crazy? Why are you blasting your skills at me?" Lucas jolted awake in the Aladdin Magic Academy infirmary, finding himself covered in bandages while Kai was holding his bleeding nose in frustration. Kai growled, "You were acting like you were half delirious. If you weren't already wounded, I would have punched you." Lucas could only mumble, "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." Kai stormed out of the room, his nose still throbbing. Lucas sat alone, on his hospital bed, bringing a hand to his face, lost in thought about the nightmare. He wondered, was it that bizarre power in the cave messing with his mind? Lucas remembered the moment. He went berserk, with the sigil glowing on his chest. He realized he had never lost his mind that badly before. Wait, wrath? Lucas asked himself. Had his mind been tainted because he let his anger take control during the fight? But, in a life-or-death battle, could anyone truly suppress their own rage? He looked at the glass of water nearby and had an idea he needed someone close to stop him whenever he went into battle. But Lucas immediately held his head and dismissed the thought because the people who accompanied him on missions or training were just students. He realized it would be too dangerous to force them to try and stop him in his berserk state. Lucas touched his face, lost in thought, and reached a bold decision to control himself. That's it then, I'll just have to make myself stop myself. At the same time, in the hospital corridor, the nurses were whispering about the condition of the patients who had just been brought back from this field mission. One sighed with relief that they had passed the critical stage, but the other wondered, even if they were seniors, how could they be so severely injured from just a school mission? In the distance, Professor Saigen was staggering, along with a bottle in his hand. The whispering continued. I heard they got hurt trying to protect the underclassmen. Rumor has it they even had to drag along 2 dead weights from the martial arts department. No wonder they got so badly hurt. Mina lay motionless on her hospital bed, with white bandages covering her head and face. It seemed she was the one who had paid the highest price to protect the younger students. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of pressure erupted. The nurses screamed and clung to each other as a powerful gust of wind blew the door open. Doubts lingered. Even as seniors, how could they have been so severely injured during a simple school mission? In the distance, Professor Saigen was stumbling along, walking with a bottle of liquor in his hand. The whispers continued. I heard they got hurt trying to protect the underclassmen. Rumor has it they were also dragging around 2 dead weights from the department. Combined with the martial arts training, it's no wonder they were so badly hurt. Mina lay motionless on the hospital bed, her head and face wrapped in thick white bandages, looking as if she were the one who had paid the heaviest price to protect the lower-class students. Suddenly, an overwhelming surge of pressure erupted. The nurses screamed, huddling together in fear as a powerful gale slammed the doors, slamming them tight shut. Where on earth is this wind coming from? Saigen was so stunned he dropped his bottle, shattering it on the floor. His eyes widened in sheer terror as he felt that familiar aura, this presence. An advanced martial arts master? You've got to be kidding me! Inside the sealed room, Lucas was focusing all his spiritual energy to perform an ancient technique. He smirked with a hint of arrogance. Good. The clone technique was a success. Instantly, 2 exact replicas of Lucas appeared, standing tall beside him. Surrounded by a glowing aura, Lucas began to analyze based on the knowledge from the old library book. The power of one clone is at most half of the original body. If split into 3, the strength is divided equally, meaning each clone possesses only 1/6 of my true power. He looked at his palm, silently assessing the technique's efficiency. That's a bit too weak to stop me if I actually go berserk and lose control, but still, it should be enough to buy the others some time to escape. Lost in his calculations, Lucas's ears twitched as he sensed someone approaching. He turned around to find his homeroom teacher, Professor Saigen, standing at the door. Saigen entered with a solemn expression, far different from his usual self, his eyes staring gloomily at Lucas. He spoke in a low voice. Hey, Lucas, from the entrance exam to the beast-taming convention, and now this mission. Strange things always seem to happen wherever you are. Saigen stepped closer. What exactly are you? Why did you sneak into this school? Faced with the crushing pressure of the interrogation and the professor's glowing golden eyes, Lucas could only bow his head in silence, leaving the air heavy and suffocating. Lucas broke into a cold sweat, struggling to cover his tracks despite his teacher's suspicion. Sir, I honestly don't know what you're talking about. The reason I came to Allen Magic Academy is obviously to learn martial arts and become stronger. In a flash, Saigen had closed the distance behind Lucas with terrifying speed, catching him completely off guard. Saigen whispered with intense pressure, Become stronger, you say? Well then, before that, tell me what your true strength really is.